Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. NFL kickoff tonight, and we got a massive show to get into Thursday night at Arrowhead Stadium. Rematch weekend in the Canadian Football League, and with Jets just around the corner. Some big news for Winnipeg Sports Talk and the Jets, and Neal Pionk joins the program. Going to be a lot of fun. Great to have you all with us. Shout out to the podcast listeners that are making us a part of your day. And of course, everyone joining us live or after the fact on YouTube. YouTubers, hit that thumbs up if you would be so kind. And make sure to hit that red subscribe button over on YouTube. Yeah, we got some news. Our long-awaited details on our WST Ticket Pack coming up. NFL kickoff tonight. And as you can see, I've been waiting. I have not broken this hat out once since February. And I said on opening night, I would pull out my Chiefs Super Bowl hat and wear it this one time on the show and get ready to see that banner go up tonight and see the Lions and the Chiefs kick off the NFL season at Arrowhead Stadium tonight. As you can see, I'm fired up. I hope you are as well. Bring on the season and bring on a great show. Before we bring in Michael Remis, a big thanks to the sponsors that make this show happen every day. Our partners at Coolbet Canada. Brand new lock shop is in the can. Just finished that up with Dustin over on Edmonton Sports Talk. And our first big NFL episode is tomorrow. So make sure to join us at noon before we go live with the lock shop at 1. Of course, our friends at Princess Auto, Modern Man and Aquatech, Manitoba Battery, Canadian Club, Vita Health, Wallace & Wallace, Nick and Nicky DQ, F Apparel, Consolidated Supply, BP and Royal Sports, Assiniboia Downs, Breezy Bend, Aikens Lake, and the great taste of Winnipeg's own Little Brown Jug. Remis, what is going on? How are you today, my friend?
Hey, I'm feeling good. You're getting me really fired up here. For NFL, I'm going to have to go change hats, get my fan of the league hat. Nice attire, though. But yeah, NFL Thursday, I try not to get so excited about Thursday NFL because I feel like it's just a tease. To me, the real kickoff is Sunday, where all the games are. But I am excited. Should be a lot of points in this one if you're doing any like props or fantasy or anything like that. So I do think it'll be a great game. Anytime the Chiefs are on, there's going to be points. And Detroit was also, great for fantasy last year. So it should be a good game, but I still think it's a tease.
Eric in chat's asking, do you have a favorite NFL team? Or are you fan of the league and fan of everyone that is on your fantasy team or who you put on your DFS squad?
Yeah, mostly. I mean, I'll cheer for the Vikings. Proximity. A lot of people I know Vikings. In the early 2000s, I adopted the Aaron Brooks, Joe Horn Saints for a bit. And
Joe Horn,
and
cell phone
the
guy.
Cell phone, yeah. I got a Deuce McAllister jersey still. And I had Tom Brady in like 2002 in fantasy, so I did cheer for them, but I wouldn't call myself like a huge fan of any team. Although I could say maybe Vikings would be the closest, just proximity, and all my friends are Vikings, so you kind of hop on when they're in the playoffs. But no, I'll say no.
I love the chat, and I knew this would get some things going. Tony Dean's fired up. NFL kickoff, baby. Woo. We see Derek McCorrin, horrible hat and a hoodie.
Yeah.
I love it. Craig Smith, repeat Huss. I mean, I'm not betting against him. I'll tell you that much. It's hard to win a Super Bowl, but this is, as long as Patrick Mahomes is behind center and Andy Reid's on the sideline, the Chiefs, I think, are the team to beat right now. And the odds will say that, but there's a lot of great teams, especially in the AFC. Really looking forward to kicking this around a little bit later on with Chris Meaney, who's going to join us, and Tony Dean. Why not question of the day? This Chiefs hat or the infamous Jets hat, which is worse? That Jets hat that I was being shamed online for, by people that have no clue, may I point out first and foremost. I totally regret not doing this, but when we were at Aitken's Lake, I got off the plane, and the Aitken staff does a great job of welcoming everybody off the plane. And Pitt, who runs my great friend Paterson, his kids are getting a bit older and now very much involved in the operation of the spot. Annika does a great job with the hospitality. And his son Martin is now a guide and does a bunch of other things. Well, Marty was in fact wearing this exact same hat when I got there. And I said, Marty, you've always had a great sense of style and fashion. And he didn't know what I was talking about. And Fit kind of filled him in on how that hat was not well received by many in the WST universe. Anyways, that hat is doing fine. It will be broken out at hockey season, which is just around the corner. But for now, tonight is NFL kickoff. And this is the dream, everyone, to be able to wear a Super Bowl champion's hat on the day where your team plays week 1 on Thursday night and raises a banner. So we will get to some NFL talk a little bit later on. Remo, I want to talk about this Jets pack, but first off, let's get to the Bombers. And we'll get more into Banjo Bowl and everything around this weekend when Mike jumps on the program a little bit later on. But Bombers practicing today. And I know that we spent a lot of time talking about big questions coming out of the Labor Day Classic, going into the Banjo Bowl with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And for the first time in a long time, special teams has been a real central part of the questions about the Bombers. I mean, got absolutely trounced in the return game. The difference was, I think, 160 yards or something like that from the game, which was a huge factor in the football game. And I think we've all been waiting. What is up with Janarian Grant? He was doing the wind sprints last week, wasn't seen in practice. He's out until October on the injured list right now. And Greg McCrae, who not that was filling the shoes quite well. I mean, a very versatile player and has done some great things in a lot of offensive capacities. But he's not, he's to the practice squad right now. So I'm not sure whether we're going to be seeing some sort of a different look, but the bottom line is the return game, we're not getting Janarian Grant back anytime soon. And Greg McCrae has been moved to the practice roster, so I'm not sure there's any help coming in. It's just going to basically be on the guys that are in that lineup to execute a heck of a lot better.
Yeah, we're kind of waiting and seeing who's going to be returning. Unfortunate about Janarian Grant. You hope that he can be ready for the playoffs. He's been out for 2 months now with an ankle issue, and as long as he's okay for the playoffs, I guess that would help. They can clinch with the win, but it was Jamal Parker returning punts and Greg McCrae returning kicks on the weekend, and we'll have to see who takes the kickoff returns, as Parker did do the punt return. So this was interesting. Sucks for Janarian Grant, but thankfully, the playoffs are in November, and he's out until October. But it is certainly an issue. You're seeing, it was mentioned in the chat all day yesterday, the Bombers seem to be starting all the time at the 20, and Saskatchewan was basically starting at the 40 because it's such better returns. And you noticed it in previous games' return coverage. We talked about Mike Miller, who wasn't practicing. He was there, but not practicing. So, both sides on special teams has returns and coverage have been an issue for the Bombers.
Let's face it, coming out of the game, so much of the talk, because of just what an egregious and ridiculous play, was on the infamous headbutt to Zach Collaros. And I think it took maybe some of the focus off of where the Bombers fell short in the game, how they managed it in the fourth quarter. And obviously, this is a game about wins and losses, and they took an L. But a lot of anger was around Pete Robertson and what he had done. And especially after Craig Dickinson post-game said he didn't think it was that bad, but then qualified himself and said that he didn't see it. Riders were back at practice yesterday and spoke on it, and it was a much different tune from Saskatchewan. And listen, I think that's a smart move for them. I think that probably makes the most sense. It maybe takes a little bit of the bad blood out of what everyone is expecting to be as contentious a rematch as we've seen in this rivalry in a long, long time. But Pete Robertson has said, he didn't blame anybody else. He said he lost it. It was stupid. He put his team in a bad position. All correct. And there will not be an appeal. So he's going to sit his game out. The Riders are going to handle the punishment for that, and Pete Robertson will handle that punishment. So I'm not sure that will be as big of a story as maybe it could have been if they really dug their heels in on it, Reem. But I'm not sure that matters a whole lot. This Bomber team is going to be angry and I think in a foul mood from the kickoff, and hopefully that translates into a much better start than they had in the Labor Day Classic and frankly a few other games this season. But I don't think that the headbutt is going to be a big story, other than being a very cautionary tale that on either side of the line of scrimmage, if you do something stupid, if you take liberties, those 15-yard penalties can be incredibly damaging to your own football team. And it's not something the Bombers have done very much. Saskatchewan, on the other hand, prone a little bit more to that, although this year they've been relatively disciplined as opposed to beforehand. But doesn't sound like Pete Robertson, and that is going to be a big story or factor in this game. Now the suspension has been handled. They've addressed it, and he won't be in the game.
Yeah, like everyone knew that it was an idiotic play and unnecessary. Even his own team guys are like, what the hell are you doing? Dude, man, we just got a big stop. Like, and you headbutt, like we've talked about it all week. It's just so dumb. And I think they're going to move on from it. But for the Bombers, I mean, these sleepy starts, really setting them back. You look at last week, the interception, give up a couple points. We talked about the passing in the first quarter, not there. I mean, they had one drive where he threw for 100 yards, Galeros, on three passes. It was crazy. 4 completions in the first half? Just very unlike the Bombers. But you go back the last couple games, and it's kind of been like that against Montreal. Montreal got off to that hot start, and the Bombers came back and worked them. And Calgary was just kind of a sloppy game the entire time. It was that pick 6 that got them over. And against Edmonton, Zach, there's people in chat being like, well, if Zach Collaros was in the whole game playing like that, maybe they wouldn't have won. It was Drew Brown who came in and led them to the comeback. So we know at times the Bombers do look like this incredible offense with all these great receivers making highlight reel catches. But, if guys like Dalton Schoen aren't able to hang on to the ball, or Zach's throwing interceptions, they're putting themselves in a rough spot. So they're going to have that home crowd, and I think that's been a bonus. The last 2 games at home, Huss, you know how many points the Bombers have scored? 97. 50 against BC and 47 against Montreal. So, they're itching to get back at home. And I think people, the Vegas and the Lions are expecting, big Bombers win with 8.5. We looked yesterday. So they're going to have to, play I know it's cliche, but really do need to do a full 60 here because wasn't their last game.
Yeah, I see 2 possibilities for this game, and obviously they're on either side of the point spread. I mean, listen, Saskatchewan's defense is playing with some confidence. They played well against Winnipeg last week. I mean, I think there is a game script that, has a tight first half and, a game that, goes into the fourth quarter. I think there's also one that has the Bombers come out playing with a vengeance and absolutely steamrolling them. And I can't wait to see how Jake Dolegala handles what will be a crowd unlike anything that he's faced in his professional career. Not too sure about his college background, but it is going to be inhospitable to say the least. It will be the loudest stadium in Canada at any point in the CFL regular season, I think I can safely predict. And it is going to be a time. So shout out to everyone that's already making their Banjo Bowl plans and everyone that got tickets when they could. Because right now, if you don't have them, you're working pretty hard to find them or checking out on the secondary market, as the demand for this is actually unlike any game that I can remember. Even at IG Field. I mean, obviously the first game and the comeback game after the after the pandemic. I think was sold out or close to it, but I can't remember a game that was basically sold out a month before that has this sort of lead into it. So we'll get to that with Mike and more coming up a little later on. But listen, Remo, let's get into this because Neal Pionk is joining us coming up in about 10 minutes, and we're looking forward to that, and obviously looking forward to getting the fellas back and getting the players on the ice, the prospects tournament next week, the young stars out in Penticton, and Jets training camp. But I've teased this a couple times on the show, and there's been a lot of work behind the scenes, and I got to give a big thanks to Christina and Dorian and the staff over at the Winnipeg Jets to make this work. This has been something I've wanted to do for a long time. But, up until now, because of season ticket inventory, there really wasn't much of an opportunity to do this. But we are launching a Winnipeg Sports Talk 4-game pack for this year's Jets season. And tell you what, there are options on it, but first things first, I'm going to tell us where I'm hoping you will join us and where we've got the seats for it. And that is the section that I sit in throughout the entire year, section 316, which is in the corner, which would be I'm terrible with directions, but essentially the Hargrave and Graham corner. This section is awesome. It has always been, a lively, shall we say, although last year a little less so because there's a few more empty seats. We've got 4 rows of seats between rows 5 and 8, reserved for the Winnipeg Sports Talk 4-game pack. And just to tell you a little bit about 316, why I love it so much. And again, I was picking seasons in there with the opportunity to go anywhere in the entire upper bowl. Went into that corner, right outside bathroom. There's a bar, and we're actually going to be doing a little WST get-together for these games as well. I'll tell you about that in a minute. Easy access in and out of the building. It has been the best decision I made when the team moved into that building, and then obviously the Jets came back, was getting it in 316. It's the Jets attack zone in the first and third period. So we didn't just randomly pick a section. We wanted a spot where we could get a bunch of people together, but also add some other things around it to make it different than, I think, just a 4-game pack. So 316 is the spot. There will be options, and I think we'll be able to work with the Jets if people want to take advantage of this pack for the same games, the benefits of it, joining us beforehand, but sit elsewhere in the upper bowl. I'm sure we can make that happen. But my goal is to get as many of our people that are with us in the chat, people that are listening to podcasts, to get together with us and for 4 games this season, have an absolute riot, cheering on the team, having some fun, maybe getting a few chants going and trying to get the juice back in the upper bowl like it was in the first 10 years of this organization. So that's the plan right now. Remo, if you want, fire up the games, because we went in and picked 4 games that I think everyone is going to want to be a part of. That will be some of the best games of the season. We're starting it off on October 17th, Tuesday night, the Los Angeles Kings and the return of Pierre-Luc Dubois. This game is going to be charged, I would imagine. And if it's anything like our chat when talking about the entire Dubois ordeal, I think people are going to be looking forward to that. And obviously a huge game for Gabriel Velarde, Alex Iafallo, Rasmus Kapari. And we figured that, with the juice in that game and the return of WST, or the return of Dubois, we got to make that happen. So LA, Tuesday, October 17th is the first game. And we've tried to spread these out throughout the season. Next up, Thursday, November 30th, against the Edmonton Oilers. Listen, McDavid is worth the price of admission alone. There's been some great games between these teams over the past few years. And while it is not... is going to be a tough test for the Jets, that game is going to be amazing. So we've got Oilers and Jets on November 30th. Our next game is the frickin' Leaf game. And we all know what the Leaf game is like. Far too many Leaf fans coming in and invading the arena. Well, we're going to put an end to that, at least in Section 316 that night. One of the hottest tickets of the year. We were able to get it in the package. January 27th, Saturday night, 6 p.m., Toronto Maple Leafs. And then the final game could be a massive game when it comes to the playoff race. April 4th against the Calgary Flames. Those are the 4 games we've put together. And basically, this is going to be real simple. There is a link right now that is live. It is winnipegjets.com/WST. You can click on there. You can pick seats. You can buy it. But a couple more things on this that it's more than just coming to the games. We've got a beer or a drink or a pop or a water included with every ticket. And before the 4 of these games, we're going to have early access for WSTers. They've given us up to 2 hours. I think we'll probably go like 90 minutes before the game. Welcome people in early. We'll probably have a couple of cool raffles for all the WSTers and the package holders that join us. And I think there'll be a way for some of the regulars, if you have season tickets or whatnot, to come in as well. So all of that is going to be a big part of it as well. So we're going to get a chance 4 times this season to get together, to have some fun in the stands, maybe take it up a few notches. And we put this together. I'm really, really excited for it. Remis and I will be hosting it. We will be there. We'll be there before the game, hanging out with everybody. We'll do some WST giveaways. We'll have a few other things that I think will kind of add the spice to it. But we wanted to put together something that basically, I mean, there's a lot of people that want to support the team. They want to get out. They might not have enough money for a half-season ticket or even a quarter-season ticket. So we put 4 awesome games together, getting the crew for 4 nights to see the Jets take on the Kings, the Oilers, the Leafs, and the Calgary Flames. The package is, I believe, taxes in $375. You can play it in one shot. I know there's an option where you can pay it in 5 months, $75 a month as well. Let's get it done. It's live right now. winnipegjets.com/WST. The first time we've done something like this, listen, the feedback we've had on the sports trivia nights has been unbelievable. The Gold Eyes night was amazing. But we know that the engine of this program is the Winnipeg Jets. And we thought, man, what a great way to kind of get something new started in the arena with our people. So check it out. Get some for your business. Get some for your crew. Hook up with friends in the chat if you're able to. And we would absolutely love to see you join us for 4 games, starting off with the return of PLD on October 17th for the Jets package. And again, winnipegjets.com/WST is the link. You can go check it out right now. And we hope to see you all hanging out with us 4 times this season for it. And see some great comments in the chat about the games. And Russ Lowen, I have no tickets this year. I'm in. I mean, that's listen, I know there's some people that have had packages before. They lost someone out. I think this is a great way to, to get involved, to still have a little piece of the team in a package. And as I say, I think we're going to have a hell of a lot of fun, and hopefully this can grow in coming years. We are going to talk Jets in the upcoming season with Neal Pionk coming up right away. Reem, I saw Neal pop in. Oh, perfect. He's here. So let's get to it right now. While we talk about the upcoming season and those 4 games, and let's get ready for training camp and welcome in Jets defenseman Neal Pionk to the show. Neal, what's going on, man? How are you? How was your summer?
Good. How are you guys doing? Can you hear me?
We can hear you fine. You fine. We are great. We were just looking ahead to the schedule and some of the games coming up. Do you look at the schedule when it comes out every year? I mean, when it's released, are you like the fans looking at all the big games, or have you even taken a look at it right now? You just know that you start in Calgary on October 11th.
Yeah, I take an initial look at it, but then I would say after I put it away for about a month, and then once August rolls around, I kind of start studying it, kind of the big games, you circle them, and come with a couple of the big home games, who we play in our home opener, stuff like that. So it gets to an exciting time of the year.
Yeah, speaking of the home opener, familiar face on the other side, Maurice and the Florida Panthers after that crazy playoff run that they had coming in for a little matinee after starting it off. I mean, Dubois coming back. I mean, that month of October, the first of all, some really, really interesting games for the team. But, I mean, as you well know, there's no gimmies and there's no easy ones in the National Hockey League, and you got to be ready to get after it right out of the gate, as you and the fellas will be for that one-game roadie in Calgary on Wednesday, the 11th of October.
Yeah, we play them a couple times in preseason, so it'll be a fun little test for us out in Calgary in the first game. That's always a rowdy building too, so we'll have to be ready. And then, yeah, like you said, the first couple home games those are fun. I saw we play 3 or 4 home games right in a row there, Florida and LA. So it's those will be fun games. It's always a fun month in October, kind of kicking the season off.
How was your summer?
Fantastic. Live on a lake back home in Duluth, so got plenty of time on the pontoon, jet skis. Just got back to Winnipeg on Tuesday, so excited to be back and ready to work.
I think we saw you spend a lot of time on the boat, and I mean, listen, Manitoba, Minnesota, regardless of what side of the border you're on, it is lake season around. Have you been doing that pretty much, your whole professional life? Once you were able to get a spot there, is that, and will that be your plan pretty much every off season going forward?
Yeah, every off season. My wife and I, it's a good unwind and unplug kind of. You go out in the lake, and it's, especially on a Tuesday or Wednesday morning, it's dead quiet. You're literally the only boat on the lake. It's very nice. The season is 8-9 months of pure chaos, whether it's the season, travel, family, and guests coming in. So that's a good getaway to have for us, and we've enjoyed it the last 5 years.
How different is the beginning of the summer, right after the playoffs finish for the squad, and you come back and you just played the entire year? How different is that first month as opposed to the month of August for you, where you're ramping up to get going again in September in training camp with your teammates?
The first month is fun. It's we just kind of hang out and relax. You get home. Myself personally, I got bumps and bruises, and just mentally kind of unplug. I don't even try to turn off the phone as much as I can. Try to go on the boat as much as I can. Maybe travel a little bit, but I'm not working out for that first month or skating for that first month. So it's total unwind time. Compared to this last month, it's almost the exact opposite. All of a sudden, you're looking at the schedule. You're getting fired up. Training 4 or 5 times a week, skating 4 or 5 times a week. So it's kind of go time towards the end of August.
What do you watch the playoffs? Were you able to watch it afterwards? After you guys were eliminated, or do you just not even want to look at it because you're still pissed off about what happened a few weeks earlier?
Yeah, the first couple of weeks I didn't. Kind of the same story every year. First couple of weeks I don't watch anything. Once I kind of unwind and we get kind of back home, settled in, just hanging out, I'll turn on a few games, and then I'll watch a fair amount of the Cup final. But yeah, I watch a few playoff games, so it was fun. I mean, any bar or restaurant you walk into back home, the hockey's on. It's just like Canada. I'm sure Minnesota's kind of the same way. So there was hockey all over the place, and I don't mind watching the end of it.
Neal Pionk with us from the Winnipeg Jets as we get ready for a training camp. And as we mentioned, we just launched our Winnipeg Sports Talk 4-game pack. Individual tickets are going on sale on Friday for upcoming games this year. Neal, once you were able to get away from, obviously, sour taste with the way the season ended in Game 5 against Vegas, and took, a couple weeks to kind of unwind and distance yourself from it. When you look back, what do you take away from last season for your group heading into training camp next season?
What do we take away from that last series?
No, well, just the season overall. When you look back,
season.
I mean, things that you were happy about, or things that maybe you think this is a focus for myself personally or our team to take that next step.
Well, it's easy to beat yourself up, right? And not only personally, but a team, right? You go into the season, you start like we did, and then we kind of fell apart, I would say, probably after Christmas, after the All-Star break. And then we're disappointed in the playoffs. So it's easy to beat yourself up, but you got to remember to look at the positives too. Like, we were one of the best teams in the league all the way through, kind of December 1st or maybe middle of December. We played some really good games, even later in the season when we had to push. So that stuff is positive, and you got to grab those things and bring them to training camp. Obviously, you got to learn from your mistakes too, but I think it's almost more important to grab those positives and take some momentum into training camp.
The the grind of a season, especially one where you qualify for the playoffs, is there inevitably are ups and downs. Now that you're more of a veteran and been with this team a little bit more, and I think some of the younger players have now, aged and have more experience behind them. Do you think that makes the identity of a team able to, handle some of the challenges that inevitably come over the course of the year? And I guess in a shorter way of saying it, do you think this is going to be a more mature team next year? And how might that help the Winnipeg Jets over the course of that grind of 82?
Yeah, it has to be. The core of us, we're getting on that older side now. We don't have a ton of 18, 19-year-olds. We're all 25, 26, 27, 28. So we're kind of in that prime age where we've been there, done that. I know it's cliche, but it's true. Like, you go on a 3-game losing streak, it's like, okay, here's how we turn the ship, and vice versa. We go on a 3-game winning streak, it's like, okay, here's what we're doing good, and here's what we got to keep going. Along with that, just pulling in the new guys and helping them out. So that's all kind of part of being a veteran and being a leader on the team and being around for a while. You got to kind of bring everyone together and mend as best you can.
How much contact do you have with the rest of the fellas over the course of the off season? Are you talking to quite a bit of them? You still got the group chat going, or does that sort of take a pause for a little bit and then kind of ramp up around now when we know the season's right around the corner?
I would say it takes a pause for a couple of weeks, but I mean, we're a pretty close team. I have some good friends in the team. So a lot of Minnesota guys. So, Schmitty and Sandberg and those guys, we chat Twins baseball all the time. Brendan Dillon, my D partner, will keep in touch with him, going back and forth between the Twins and the Mariners, which is always pretty fun. Little stuff like that. And then, like I said, Sandberg he's from Duluth, just bought a place by me. So we skate together and work out together towards the end of the summer there. And we keep in touch for the most part.
Speaking of Sandberg, couple of the boys getting down on a knee over the last little while. He got engaged. Kyle Connor got engaged. Speaking of a team that is maturing, what's going on here?
Turning the corner, yeah, exactly. A bunch of engaged guys and married guys now. We all know the next step too. It's coming fast. It's kind of crazy to see.
Neal Pionk with us on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Now you're back in Winnipeg. What are the first couple of weeks for you when you get back here? Obviously, there's a lot of just settling as far as life goes, but we're hearing more and more the guys are here, as well as a couple of the new guys that came over in the Dubois trade. What are these first couple of weeks for you like before official team duties start up?
First couple of weeks are good. We're working out and skating together, getting our feet wet. On the ice, it's been good. I follow and Balharry are here, so I know Al. I played with him in college a couple of years, and we've kept in touch over the last few years. So I drug him up here with me, and he's happy to be here, and getting to know Gabe the last couple of days has been great. Been good skating with those guys. And then off the ice, it's nice being off the ice when we're up here too, because we're able to golf or do whatever we want kind of in the afternoons. We're not too banged up yet, so that's not until training camp starts, but we're having a little fun right now.
I'm glad you mentioned Alex Iafallo, because I wanted to ask him, and obviously you did have a connection with him from college, but the other part of it where I thought that, there was obviously a connection is that you in a lot of ways sort of came to Winnipeg in a very similar way and then found a home and obviously signed an extension here with Winnipeg. Because of the way that you came here as part of the Trouba trade, he came here as part of the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade. Have you been in some way sort of a team ambassador for the new guys, to get them here, get them settled, and help a little bit of the transition, much like happened to you a few years ago when you became a Jet?
Yeah, certainly. It's always nice to have that bridge, with somebody when you know a guy in the team. So I try to reach out to right away. Even to Kapari and Velarde, I don't know those guys, but I try to reach out right away because I know how it feels to get traded in a big trade and come to a new city where you might not know many guys. So Al was the easy one. He knew. I've known him for a while. He's a kid from outside of Buffalo. He went to school in Duluth, so he's used to the weather, used to the outdoors. He'll fit right in up here.
What do you think those guys bring to the team? And obviously, you're losing a really quality player and guy in Pierre-Luc Dubois. That's hard to replace. But Velarde comes with a pretty good pedigree, coming off a great season. Iafallo in particular seems like about as quality a two-way player, and that helps you win games. I mean, what do you know about them as players, and what do you think that all three, including Campari, will bring to the group, and how that will help the team right off the bat?
Well, the first thing I think of when I think of Velarde and Kapari's size, I remember I've only played against those two, a handful of times, but I remember playing against those guys, Kapari and Velarde. I'm like, all right, those guys are pretty big, and then they got some good skill too. I know Kapari's younger and skating with Velarde last couple of days. He's got some sweet hands on him, so it'll be exciting for those guys. And then I follow. He's just steady Eddie. He's Mr. Consistent. He's always been that way. He was that way in college, and one of the best parts of his game is the stick detail, the defensive detail, and I know he can provide offense too. He was one of our best players in college, and he's been an effective NHL player too. But you just watch him closely. He picks so many pockets out there. It's pretty fun to watch.
What's interesting when you make a 3-for-1 trade like that, and obviously you had a couple of key guys come over that are here with the club at the deadline in the Metsnikov, in Nito Niederreiter, is that, we've talked a lot about the competition on the blue line last year, and that competition pretty much still exists, including some younger players. It seems like, adding these guys to the mix with the players that are still here will have a different makeup and different look and maybe add to a different identity of the forwards group. But I think both at forward and defense, some pretty significant competition once you guys get going with that first practice and training camp.
Yeah, let me tell you. I mean, there's internal competition like you guys wouldn't believe. I mean, down to Nate Schmidt asking me how many goals I scored in practice. So it's stuff like that. He'll come up to us in practice, and me and another guy, and he'll say, all right, goal competition, let's go. So we're doing a warm-up drill. We're counting each other's goals. But not only that, it's little things like that. And then, yeah, sure, it's big picture. We're always pushing each other. We want the best for each other. We want the best for ourselves. So that internal competition really fires everybody up and brings out the best in us.
One other guy I wanted to ask you about, because, you mentioned that there's a lot of talk between the guys. I know last year when Rick Bowness took the job, he was in touch with people throughout that summer. You talked to the coach much since the end of the season right now? And if so, what's sort of the messaging been to all the guys about the focus and what he's hoping to see from everyone when they show up ready for work?
Yeah, just a couple times. He kind of lets us have our summers, keeps us to ourselves, but he called me a couple times, and it was pretty small talk. How's the lake life? How's this? How's that? Working out, skating, yada, yada. And it was a couple-minute conversation, but kind of the point of emphasis he always has is make sure you're ready to go on training camp. And he sends us a letter before training camp saying the same thing. So we know what to expect coming in.
Is it a handwritten letter from Rick?
I think it's typed out and signed, but we got the message loud and clear, and we got the same one last year, and training camp was tough last year, so we'll be ready. Beautiful.
Neal Pionk is with us. Well, speaking of being ready, and I couldn't help but notice that you were rocking a Vikings hat. It's NFL kickoff tonight.
I see that Chiefs hat too.
Hey, listen, I've been saving this. I said to everyone to start the show, I've been saving this for 6 months. Only one, Nate, is your team get to raise a banner.
That's right.
Put on the Super Bowl champs hat and make this thing happen. But what's the feeling around the Vikes? They had that crazy season last year where they won every single close game. And obviously it didn't go well in the playoffs. There's been some big changes. Dalvin's gone, Adam Thielen's gone, but still a lot of talent in that room. Probably the best receiver in the game, and Justin Jefferson. Where's the optimism meter for Neal Pionk when it comes to the Viking season?
It's our year every year. We're going to win it every single year. Yeah. No, that's the beauty of being I'm fired up. I'm excited. I know people say they overachieved, but it's a sign of a good team when you win those close games. So again, they got a lot of talent. They lost Cook, I know that, but Madison, pretty excited for him. They got a new defensive coordinator, good receiving core. This Addison's supposed to be pretty good. So as long as they beat the Packers twice, I think I'll be happy.
Speaking of the Packers, did you or any of your friends shed any tears when Aaron Rodgers left the Packers for the AFC and the Jets?
I texted every single one of my Packer friends, including Mason Appleton, and said, may the tears begin. It's going to be a long couple of years, but we'll see. They always find a way. They always seem to find a way. So that's a good rivalry.
Now, I have to ask you, and this is a very topical question because of the day we're speaking on, NFL kickoff. One of my favorite things to talk about the guys either on the air or off the air when I bump in is the fantasy football league and the fantasy world. Have you guys had the draft? Is the league still going on? Who's the commissioner? What's the fantasy situation for the Winnipeg Jets as we get ready for game number 1 tonight?
Yep, we got a league going on. Let's see. The commissioner is Kyle Connor. He runs the whole show. Of course, he was put in a pickle last year with the whole debacle about in the Buffalo situation.
Yes.
I've never seen so many texts back and forth in my life. There was a couple good arguments, but no, it's a good fantasy league. We all have fun. A couple guys are co-managers. So this year I'm co-managing with Nemestikov. He wanted to get in, so I brought him on board. We had a good draft, I thought. Yahoo didn't think so, but I thought we had a good draft. So we'll see how it goes.
It's actually, and I mean, people that don't play often go, God, why do you guys obsess over your fantasy team so much? But I can imagine, it's interesting. You have a new guy like Nemestikov coming in. I can't imagine a better way early on before a season even starts to sort of get a little closer to the guys and have some fun sort of things to talk about away from the rink than a fantasy football league.
Right. It's easy conversation. And I think that's for everybody. I think Villardi jumped on Stanley's team. So, I think they finished almost last year, so they got they got to right the ship a little bit, but they'll be all right. But no, you're right on that. It's easy conversation for Vladdy and for Gabe to come in and just chat about something that seems silly or seems stupid as fantasy football, but it's pretty fun banter around the locker room, that's for sure.
Well, I mean, listen, and you brought up, I mean, obviously it was a horrible tragedy, and thank God Damar Hamlin's around.
Right.
But I mean, the impact of that game and canceling the game basically, which they didn't have much choice to do. I mean, there were billions of dollars around the world tied into that result. Did you guys just do a split in the final, or was it the game pretty much already done? Like, how did you resolve it? Because every league, I think, kind of did different depending on their situation.
Yeah, I think we did some sort of a split. I can't remember who exactly it was between, but yeah, there was a lot of arguments because of course you're in multiple fantasy leagues, so each league kind of had their own way of doing it. Man, what a situation! I remember sitting down that night, and I turned the TV on. It was the first play I saw, and the last play too. And I grabbed my wife. I said, "You won't even believe what just happened." And then she's kind of watching the TV, and it was crazy. And like you said, thank goodness he's all right. But yeah, it turned into quite the storm there.
Yeah, and I mean, first things first, you're worried about, I mean, this young man's life, but let's just say that the fantasy commissioners earned their non-existent paycheck last year and dealt with a heck of a lot. Neal, this has been a lot of fun having you on the program right now, and welcome back to Winnipeg. And obviously, people are looking forward to FanFest and everything going on. Just before we go, you've been doing this for a few times. I mean, just generally, what's your feeling about the upcoming season? And from talking to the guys, the level of excitement to get back together and get after it again.
I'm excited. Every time, like I said, when you go home in the spring and May and in June, you kind of unplug, you unwind, relax. You don't even think about hockey really. But for me, it's when free agency hits. As soon as that's done, it's like, okay, here's our team. Here we go. And then once the first week of September hits, I feel like a kid back in school for the first time and excited to do so. You go there, you see all your old buddies, you see all your old teammates, and you feel like a kid again. You're playing a sport for a living, and it's good. It's really fun. I can't wait for everyone to get here.
Hey, you mentioned free agency just before we go.
Yep.
As someone that has a contract and you're not a free agent after this year, how much do you pay attention to the off-season market every year? This was a little bit of a weird one because it seemed like a lot of guys were taking one-year deals knowing the cap was going up. I mean, is that something that you pay close attention to, or, like a lot of other people just seeing the ticker, oh, this guy's going there, more caring about where players are playing and who's in and out of your own club?
A little bit of both. I like following where guys are going more so. The money is what it is. Everyone's got their own situation and own preferences. But as far as where everyone's going, I'm July 1st, I'm probably on my phone all day. I'm on NHL Network, TSN, whatever it is, trying to refresh, trying to see where guys are going. So that stuff excites me. That stuff's fun. But yeah, before that, don't really follow it much. And after free agency, it's go time.
How much do you talk to your agent in the off season and throughout the year? And is it different in a contract year or when you're in the middle of a deal?
Yeah, it's different in a contract year. Totally depends on the guy. I would say I talked to my agent a few times throughout the year, just checking in, saying what's up, talking about everything, really. Talking about life, talking about different games, what games he's seeing, different clients. So it's fun. We have a good relationship. Yeah, it's been good.
Hey, even an agent might have some fantasy advice for you. Should I drop this guy? Should I make a trade?
Know. Exactly. He knows everything. So.
Hey, Neal, this has been a lot of fun having you on the program. I know a lot of people in chat fired up. Appreciate you coming on with us, and enjoy a couple rounds of golf, and maybe the Banjo Bowl on Saturday. It should be an absolute madhouse down at IG Field for that Bomber Rider tilt. And then the first Sunday of NFL football. And then it's back to real life with a few more obligations. But tell you what, we're looking forward to seeing you and the fellows back on the ice. Cannot wait for the season. And we'll look forward to talking to you some point later on this year. Thanks so much for doing this, and all the best going into training camp.
Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Good stuff. There's Neal Pionk of the Winnipeg Jets with us live on WST. Great chat with Neal. We mentioned we got right into Neal, so I do have to thank a couple sponsors. But again, great way to kick this show off today, launching the Winnipeg Sports Talk Ticket Pack for those 4 games. Again, it's winnipegjets.com/WST. And having Neal Pionk, who seems pretty fired up, both for NFL kickoff and the upcoming NFL season. Let's give a big thanks to our friends over at Modern Man Barbershops, now with 8 locations in Winnipeg, including the newest locations on Pembina Highway and Plessis Road. Modern Man Barbershops have a variety of grooming products and services, whatever you need, especially right now with back to school, back to work, those sort of things. Look your best at Modern Man. Haircuts, beard shaping, shaves, color services, and more. But I know it's a busy time right now at Modern Man, and a lot of people want to get a new look heading into fall. Book it online over at modernmanbarber.com, and you can follow them on Instagram at Modern Man Barbershops. Listen, I know we've had some great time in the pool all summer long, and if you are thinking about maybe taking the plunge next year with an in-ground or above-ground pool, Aquatech are the experts in that. But as we get into the fall, are you ready to enhance your kitchen, bathroom, or even add a man cave to your home? It's definitely man cave season with the NFL back. Visit aqua-tech.ca to learn about their whole home renovations with thousands of renos as their foundation, including financing options today. Again, that's at Aquatech at aqua-tech.ca. You got your batteries ready for fall, both your car, your truck. Hey, it's always good to be proactive when it comes to the upcoming winter. Not that we want to talk about it very much. And of course, there's still some time to squeeze out of this beautiful weather. Batteries for literally everything. Available at the best prices in town at Manitoba Battery. Listen, Donnie and his great staff are going to take care of you better than anywhere else. You'll get the best prices in town on batteries, period. Beating the pants off the big box stores, and you won't have to waste your time parking or getting in line. And the best part about it is Manitoba Battery will deliver it to you for free anywhere inside the perimeter with any purchase over $60. It's that easy. Go to manitobabattery.com. Check out everything they've got available for you. Whatever you need, it'll be there. Or give them a phone call. Or of course, you can also pop down and see them in person at 1026 Logan Avenue. And you ready for Banjo Bowl, folks? Stock up on the good stuff. Canadian Club for your tailgates, maybe some CC and gingers for the cooler. Liquor marts are back open, so the entire family of Canadian Club products there for you and ready to go. And of course, if you're getting a big Banjo tailgate, don't let the green stripe on the can scare you away. That great drink of the summer, pretty damn good in the fall too. CC and ginger now available in 473 milliliter cans. Available at beer vendors as well as your local Manitoba liquor marts. All right. We are going to have some NFL talk later on with Chris Meaney. But right now, let's welcome in Mike McIntyre from the Winnipeg Free Press. Mike, what's going on? How are you?
Huss, I am doing wonderfully. Always good to chat. A little different doing this on a Thursday. For those creatures of habit, usually they see us do our thing on Tuesdays, but the long weekend kind of threw everything into chaos, I guess. So it's nice to switch it up a little bit, right?
Well,
Thursdays?
for sure. And I wanted to make sure you were coming on after we did our big media fantasy draft, so we could kick that around. We'll do that, and it'll get your thoughts on both the NFL and CFL. Big weekend for the Bombers coming up in a minute, but. We just had Neal Pionk on the program, and it was a fun chat talking to him about the offseason and, everything that is to come. And, obviously there's a lot of people that are fired up for fantasy football on the first game of the year. It was interesting talking to him about the inner workings of that league within the club. Kyle Connor's now the commissioner. I think in the past it had been Andrew Kopp. I believe Blake Wheeler was very much a part of that league in the past. And it's pretty clear that, not only are guys sticking it around, but, they're now going with co-managers. But it is a pretty neat way of bringing guys into the team before they've even skated with the team. They're in a draft, kind of going back and forth in the group chat like we all do. People don't think a lot about that, but I mean, personalities are important when it comes to team building. And, there might be more changes going forward with the Winnipeg Jets, as we've talked about all along. But I mean, a pretty big change has happened already with Dubois leaving and the 3 new guys coming in. And it sounds like, pretty lucky to have a guy like Pionk that played college with Iafallo, drove him up here, and kind of a fast forward crash course into being a part of the team before things even get going.
It's funny you mentioned fantasy football, Huss. I was down, I think it was last Friday at I was going to say Iceplex. I still call it the Iceplex. It's now the Hockey for All Center. I was down there because for the first time, a few Jets were taking a tour. Last Friday, it was just Adam Lowry and Gabe Vilardi. Gabe Vilardi gets the Early Bird Award. He was actually the very first member of the Winnipeg Jets to get to town. Makes a little bit of sense. Vilardi obviously has some things to get settled, the housing and all that. But one of the first things he said, Huss, when was chatting with him last Friday, is how he had yet to meet the majority of his Jet teammates. In fact, the only one he had met was Adam Lowry that day. But he was talking about the fantasy football draft and how he was already in the chat. He wasn't sure when their draft was, but he said that he was getting some intel on that. And I believe the plan was to use the long weekend to kind of get that all settled. So interesting that among Gabe Vilardi's very first items on his to-do list was like find housing, get settled in Winnipeg, get involved in the Winnipeg Jets fantasy football draft. I'll probably be asking throughout the season, and I guess I'll have to go to Kyle Connor if he's the commissioner, but it would be fun to kind of find out who's leading the way, almost like get a standings board up, kind of like I expect we're going to be doing in our media fantasy football pool that colleague Taylor Allen put together. I know you joined us remotely the other day, Huss, while we were down at the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame, because you're in like 1,000 fantasy football drafts.
Well, it was just, I've got a couple of leagues that I've been in for a long, long time, and they always try and push it towards the end. I was really hoping it was going to be on the Monday. That would have been perfect. And I mean, and I was really regretting not being there with everyone, because very rarely in today's day and age can you get everybody together for the most part. And
there was some, I can attest, and I won't spill any, there was some quality trash talking. You put, there was 12 of us in the pool and most were there. So you put like close to a dozen members of the media together. As you say, rarely is it that we're together. I mean, maybe in a press box, but you're busy covering a game. This was entirely different and a real cross-section of media. It was a pile of fun. I'm not sure what I was doing in the group because there's a lot of football guys. I mean, you had Eddie Tate and Ted Wyman and Hammer was there bombing, guys who, John Hodge, like guys that live and breathe football. I'm a hockey guy primarily, hockey, baseball, golf. Football's way down my list. That being said, I am the reigning champion in the other fantasy football league, and I kind of regret not bringing my trophy with me to the Hall of Fame the other day because, I was taking a bit of a ribbing, and I think had I brought my big trophy, might have shut some guys up, kind of put them in their place, use it as a paperweight or something. But yeah, it should be a lot of fun. And Huss, I just looked at the schedule. I see you and I are slated for a week 2 matchup.
Yes.
So that one's already circled on the calendar for yours truly.
That's good. And that will be the Chiefs and Jags weekend, which well, was going to need to put up some points. So
I'm a Jags fan that week anyways.
No doubt. That was fun. And as I say, I already had committed to a draft. I at least had a legitimate reason why I wasn't there, unlike a certain other member of Winnipeg Sports Talk who just had the generic, I have kids, I was away on the weekend. I mean, come on.
Doesn't fly, Remis.
Hey, come on. I didn't know it was in person. I didn't plan for it.
Kudos to the two guys that were remote in both of you, Huss, Remis. You guys were really quick on your picks. It actually worked out fun. It's the snake draft, right? And Huss, you were 1. Remis was 12. So you guys always had back-to-back picks, which actually worked out really well because you'd rapid fire, boom, boom. You both were ready to go. There were a few guys in the room who you needed to time them with a calendar. At one point, Billick took forever, and I actually questioned whether Scotty was watching some game film of certain players before he made his selection. He actually said at one point, after he'd already been about 3 minutes, he said, "How much time do we have?" He said, "You've already eclipsed your time. Are you calling a timeout?" So yeah, some guy. I mean, I was always pretty quick because, again, I don't take it as serious as some guys, but I'll be curious to see if those who clearly put the work in, if that pays off. Scott Billick would be one because he agonized over some picks, no question.
Hey, well, it's gonna be a heck of a lot of fun, and I'm thanks again to Taylor Allen for doing that, and
the Sports Hall of Fame, a great venue there, by the way.
Looked
for those,
awesome.
If you are hosting a football draft or anything, a meeting, they let us know when we were using their building the other day that they are available. People maybe don't think of it as a venue. It's a great venue because you've got all this memorabilia, and I mean, it's just a great place to get together. We had the projection going on the big screen, and it was a great venue. So for folks out there who are maybe looking for a place to host, whether it's a meeting or your next draft or whatever, the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame wants you to know they are open for business.
Yeah, I'm actually heading down to Sport Manitoba right after the show today, so probably poke my head in there as well. Mike, let's talk Bombers Riders for a minute. What did you think of that? What did you think of the game on the weekend? That was a wild one on so many levels. Frustrating for Bombers and their fans, but man, does it set up one hell of a rematch in what I'm pretty confident in saying will be the most bananas atmosphere at a CFL game all season long.
Well, you've got a Bombers team that is PO'd, rightfully so. You've got 30,000 plus fans that are PO'd, and you've got kind of the redemption, the revenge game, if you will, that this sets up with the Riders squeaking out that overtime victory. I expect to see a Bomber team that is going to come out and try to make one heck of a statement. Now, no doubt the Riders are feeling pretty good about themselves. They've just knocked off the BC Lions and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, kind of the two teams that I think were looking like they were going to run away with the West. And lo and behold, the Riders now, who are dealing with some injuries and suspensions, they are hanging tough. And, what would a second straight win against the Bombers mean to the Riders? It would basically turn the West into a 3-horse race instead of a 2-horse race. But the Bombers, take the headbutt out of it, they would have been coming out with a little fire in their bellies anyways. But I think with what happened and, some of the fallout, looking at some Saskatchewan fans and media, accusing Caleros of taking a dive and bringing up indiscretions from 2, 3, 5, 50 years ago. Well, what about a lot of whataboutism going on out there right now? The fact of the matter is that was a cowardly cheap shot. It had nothing to do with the play itself. It was not a continuation of play. It wasn't even a heat of the moment where, at the end of a play, this was if you did that to someone on the street or in a bar, I covered crime and justice for 20 years. That's called assault. Premeditated assault. That's what that was. It's too bad for the Bombers because it looked like that was going to be a real turning point. It cost the Riders arguably 4 points, turned a field goal into
straight up 4 points. I mean,
right. And, had the Bombers come out with a victory, you could say that they got the last laugh because that bout of stupidity ended up costing the Riders a game that they frankly had to win. Of course, it didn't end up turning out that way. The suspension, though, I guess that's meant to diffuse a little bit of the anger. A very justified one-game suspension. I wouldn't have had a problem with 2. For this reason, Huss, he got to stay in the game, and that was maybe the biggest insult of all, that Zach Collaros has to go to the quiet room. The guy that, headbutts him, that somehow 7 officials clearly didn't even see it.
Unreal.
He gets to stay in the game. It wasn't a great look for the CFL. It's a terrible look for the Rough Riders. It serves as a real interesting storyline to this game. And hey, it's not that the Bombers and Riders needed any more reason to kind of fire up the rivalry. It's a natural one, and the Banjo Bowl will always have some bad blood, but my goodness, the bad blood is running over big time. And yeah, Saturday should be rocking down at IG Field.
As angry as they were at that, an obvious cheap shot, at Zach Collaros, I think they're so mad at themselves for not really making the Riders pay and lose that game. Mike, we've been watching sports for a long time. That is right up there with the most idiotic penalties, selfish, harming your own team, like that I can remember in professional sports.
Yeah.
It was unconscionable for him to do that. And this is in the fourth quarter of a game that they had just got the Bombers off in the red zone in such an important spot, right, and basically handed a touchdown over to him. That's the sort of thing that costs your team games, and it should have cost them the game. And that, I think, is probably very much at the front of the lobes of the Bombers as they get ready to get out there on Saturday.
Yeah, for sure. And look, some people accuse me, mostly people not in Manitoba, you're saying this was cheap and dirty. What about this? What about that? And yeah, I'll admit it. It was Mark Scheifele on Jake Evans-esque. But I'll say this about Scheifele Evans. That was it, as stupid as that was by Mark Scheifele, and he admitted it. Everybody admits it. That was at least the continuation of a play. If Mark Scheifele had gone over and drilled Jake Evans 5 seconds after the whistle went, because that's what this was. Now, we look back, Mark Scheifele, it didn't cost them that game. Game was over, but it did perhaps cost them the series because Mark Scheifele got suspended for the rest of the series and the Jets didn't win another game. So sure, and I had people throwing that incident at me as if I defended Mark Scheifele. I've never defended Mark Scheifele. That was completely stupid. And everyone who follows the Jets, I think, would readily admit that. But yeah, this was just, there's no place in sports for what happened the other day. Thankfully, Zach Collaros is okay because, yeah, he's got a helmet on, but still, that was a hard blow to the head for a guy that's already taken some cheap shots this year. And I don't blame Zach Collaros one bit for spitting fire. The CFL talks a good game about protecting the quarterbacks, protecting the stars. In practice, they fail miserably. And, Zach Collaros has been on the wrong end of a few of these now. This was obviously the most blatant. If you're not going to protect Zach Collaros, what are we even doing here, CFL? And I think a lot of people, I'm sure in the league office and the officials, I'm sure they should be anyways, feeling kind of guilty about how that all went down. And maybe there's a lesson learned in all of it. Who knows?
Mike, I love the fact that you brought up the discourse online, particularly from Rider fans. And listen, Bomber fans are not excused. There's some pretty out there people on social media that'll be wearing blue at the game on Saturday. I get it. And I don't know whether Rider fans are like this all year long, but you get to Labor Day weekend heading into this Saturday, and there's an alternate reality once you hit the border. And I'll say this, I've got a lot of respect for most of the people in the media and the jobs that they do. But I have to wonder whether to replace Derek Taylor as the voice of the Riders, they did an online contest to just find the Saskatchewan Roughriders most unhinged online fan and gave that person a headset and a microphone.
I'm starting to think there would be a market around here for T-shirts that say something like "blocked by Ballsy," because it appears, now I don't follow the guy, but I see every now and then his tweets. This is the play-by-play announcer. For those who don't know what we're talking about, what's his name? Michael Ball. He calls himself Ballsy. He's like The Rock. He speaks of himself kind of in the third person, right? Yeah, he's been on a blocking spree, I think, with Bomber fans, and been a lot of back and forth between him. My goodness. This is a guy, by the way, Huss, I don't know if you saw this earlier this season. A Rough Rider got fined for some cheap, dirty hit. He actually started a fundraiser to pay the fine of the player because he felt like, the grass is always green in Saskatchewan and the sun always shines. They can do no wrong. They're saints. But yeah, I was trying to think the other day, how is he going to possibly defend this? And then he did.
Oh, he did. He was comparing it to the 15-yard roughing the passer that I thought was incredibly borderline earlier on in the game on a play
which was a football play. It was his momentum during a football play, not a targeted headshot. So far after the whistle that 7 officials missed it because nobody's even looking at that point. You're not expecting a headshot at that stage of the game. So yeah, it's like I said, I love the bad blood. The play itself, I don't love the play. It was cheap and dirty and dangerous, but I must admit, I'm kind of enjoying watching the world burn a little bit between Bombers and Rough Riders fans, because it is ugly out there, folks. Real ugly. Keep your heads up.
I'm just happy that I experienced enough on the streets of social media that I have not found myself. A younger Huss might have got in the mud into some of that. It took a lot of restraint, but I made a point of being very quiet and not getting into it. And speaking of the epic number of blocks that have been handed out by the individual we were talking about, I haven't seen blocking like that than Gary Lawless in the early days of Twitter before I started the Twitter amnesty days on Hustler and Lawless, where people could get unblocked by Gary, and he's much better about that now as well.
Their play-by-play guy has blocked so many people. He should be on the offensive line of the Rough Riders. They would have the best offense in the league with that kind of blocking. By the way, and this is a tribute to the great Bob Irving. Can you imagine Bob Irving getting into it the way their play-by-play guy? Like, come on.
You're talking about not just two different levels of class, but like sort of the top to the bottom. We're talking about running the full gamut. These are the two extremes, Mike.
Yeah, and look, again, I don't mind stirring the pot every now and then, and sports is supposed to be fun. So a lot of this is in good humor and whatever, but it certainly crossed the line on the field. I suspect it's crossed the line on social media in some places as well. And yeah, it's another chapter in the storied rivalry between Winnipeg and Saskatchewan, no question about it.
Well, and I marvel at just how much more fun this game is, how much bigger it has gotten since they moved it to the Saturday. And, you're able to kind of have that as the focus. You can kind of recover from whatever you did, watch NFL all day on Sunday. You don't have to pick between the two. Saskatchewan people can actually come to the game and have a day to get home and be there for work on Monday.
Yeah.
But we really do at this point have to thank one person, and that is our pal Troy Westwood for, when you look back at the history of the Banjo Bowl and like the balls that he had to do and then twist the knife. Honestly, it is the gift that keeps on giving. And frankly, that is the genesis of a lot of the insanity we see on social media. But that moment was the start of a fire that continues to burn bigger. And make no mistake about it, it is one of the best things going in the Canadian Football League. And I think both organizations are way better off for it.
Oh, agreed 100%. And so we were just talking about Ballsy. I saw Troy Westwood tweeted earlier today, he's been blocked by Ballsy. How do you block the guy that created the Banjo Bowl? And in fact, Westy said, I don't have his tweet in front of me, but I believe he said, I've never even interacted with this guy, and yet somehow I'm blocked. I guess it's a preemptive block. That Troy Westwood, of all people, who kind of got this rivalry, like you say, amped up, he's the guy, he's now on the receiving end of a block. There we go. I can't ever recall communicating with him. Seems ballsy ain't so ballsy after all.
Westy, something about this week. He saves his best material all year for it. Remo, by the way, we got to get Troy on before the game. There's no doubt about it. That is just absolutely classic stuff from Troy. And by the way, we always like to throw out the odd betting line on this program. I have never interacted with this individual either before. I'm not sure whether you have or not, but I'm just looking at Coolbet right now. Minus 800 that both of us are blocked by Kickoff on Saturday, even without anything more. So, hey, listen, the more the merrier. A lot of good people that have been done it. This is going to be unreal, though, coming up. We talked about the move to Saturday and the way this game has grown and grown and grown. I think it speaks to just how successful this team has been for a number of years, what they built on and off the field. Mike, this game has been sold out for the better part of a month right now, and I've been following the secondary ticket market. I've never seen a get-in price for a Bomber game, secondary market, at around $120. I think there's a few more tickets that have gone on under $100, but the demand for this regular season game, it far outpaces the return after the pandemic, the Ticats game, probably even the first game at the new stadium. Like this, I think this is a new high watermark for ticket demand for one game in a regular season for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Frankly, even including playoffs, because it's a lot colder and, a few people don't want to go at that time.
Yeah, Troy Westwood maybe should get a small cut of the net proceeds there. But you're right. It's there's anticipation, the likes of which you don't see all that often for a regular season game, and the stakes are really high. As mentioned, the Bombers, a win on Saturday, and they kind of push Saskatchewan back down and reestablish, and we'll see what BC does. But the Bombers certainly, not only will they officially clinch a playoff spot, not that that's in doubt, but I think, Huss, they will go a very long way with a win on Saturday to ensuring that there is a playoff game in Winnipeg, either the West semifinal or the West final, because, first, if the Bombers win on Saturday, they now would own the season series over Saskatchewan because they beat them, of course, the first road game of the year in Regina. So they'd have that 2-1 advantage, and they would also have a big advantage in the standings. And really, barring something shocking happening down the stretch, first or second would seem to be in order. A Saskatchewan win, however, now Saskatchewan has the season series, and all of a sudden, there's 3 teams in the mix for 2 home playoff dates. Bombers ultimately want to finish first, of course, because you'd love to only have to win 1 game to get to that Grey Cup and not 2 with the second coming on the road. So yeah, it's a huge game. You know, the rivalry aside, the bad blood from last week aside, just where these teams are in the standings, looks like a great weather forecast. You know, all of the planets are aligning to make this a truly special sports day here in Winnipeg, and let's hope the game itself kind of lives up to the hype.
Well, and you know, and as someone that absolutely loves football at every level, I'm just so happy. And maybe this has more to do with TSN being the official partner of the Canadian Football League and having the NFL rights. But just the fact that, you know, they split this up. We got an unbelievable triple header in the Canadian Football League on Saturday. Of course, kickoff tonight in the NFL, and then the first full Sunday. I mean, it is probably the most fun weekend for football fans all year long until we get down to the amazing, playoffs and obviously Grey Cup and everything goes around it. How do you see this game going? I can see a couple. I mean, could this be a close game? Absolutely. The Bombers have started very slow in the past. They certainly did last weekend. Saskatchewan's got, I think, some mojo on defense right now. But I could also see, and I mean, Remis pointed it out, the Bombers have 97 points on the board in their last two home games, a 50-burger and 47. And I think that they will, let's just say they'll be motivated to put up similar numbers in this game more than maybe any other this year. Where are you at on your expectations for Saturday afternoon at 3?
Yeah, in my weekly newsletter that it comes out every Thursday. It's free, by the way, for folks want to sign up. I think I predicted, I'm just looking what I wrote here. I think I called a 31-20 Bombers victory. So, you know, I think you're right. Saskatchewan's defense, I was really impressed with how they look, especially the first half and even parts of that third quarter. But by the fourth quarter, Haas, it looked to me like the Bombers had made some adjustments. The Bombers started to look like the offensive juggernaut we know they can be. They're obviously going to have a raucous crowd behind them and, you know, a bit of a burr in their saddle. So I would be shocked if the Bombers don't come out with a pretty strong start. And, you know, I think the Bombers win this game. It could be a blowout, sure. I think the Rough Riders D probably make some plays, and you know, again, they're playing well the last few weeks on their own. So, you know, I think it's not a blowout, but I do see a Bomber victory and a little bit of revenge enacted, if you will.
Mike McIntyre is with us. Mike, before we go, interesting signing came out late last night. Jake Sanderson with the Ottawa Senators. Let me just make sure I've got this right. I think it was 8x8, if I'm not mistaken.
8x8 and a tiny little bit more, I think.
So a little more than 64 mil. Now, this is another top prospect. I mean, young guy, does not have a ton of NHL experience.
He's got 4 goals, 4 NHL goals.
Yeah, how many games?
77 games.
So 77 games. And listen, talented young player. What do you think about... I mean, there's a lot of comparisons and a lot of similarities, I think, for a market like Ottawa to a market like Winnipeg. Yeah. And in a lot of ways, I think that, you know, Ottawa has seen, you know, the success that the Jets had leading into, you know, maybe not the last couple years, but obviously 17-18 with how they built their team and the Scheifele contract and getting Ehlers and obviously Connor signed to long-term deals. But, man, when you look at the job that Pierre Dorian has done, I mean, they have Shabbat, Stutzel, now Jake Sanderson. I'm sure I'm missing some others.
Kachuk Norris.
Oh, Kachuk and Josh Norris. I mean, what a job they've done as at least committing to guys, getting cost certainty. And I got to tell you.
Chikrin as well.
Did Chikrin extend?
I believe Chikrin has. Check with his... Now maybe he only had the couple years that he was
2 years left in his deal. I'm not sure.
So you're right. He has not. He's only got two seasons left at 4.6. He's a UFA in the summer of 2025. So I suspect
they can't even extend him right now. I mean, they can't even do that until that
summer,
point.
Right. But you know, you look what their strategy is, and obviously Ottawa Huss is very much banking on the salary cap going up, which by all accounts it's going to, and not just by a little bit, but potentially by a lot. And certainly over the course of Jake Sanderson's contract, I mean, the cap could grow really exponentially to the point that, yeah, yes, it's a risky bet to pay that much money on a guy who's had one NHL season and 4 goals. They're obviously buying his potential, and I think, you know, they drafted and developed the kid. They've certainly seen more than anyone else around the league of what they have in him. And so they obviously feel it's worth the investment. And, you know, you look at a market like Ottawa, as you say, some comparables to Winnipeg, maybe not always a prime free agent destination. There's probably a lot of players that have Ottawa on no trade list. So, you know, they've had some rough years. They're trying to reestablish themselves in that market. They're trying to sell hope to their fan base, and obviously committing to a player like this and already having a number of other young stars locked up long term. You've now got this young nucleus that you know is not going anywhere, and you can market it and sell it, and you hope that these kids kind of all grow up together, and then you build around them, and you have yourselves a championship winner. Of all the ways to try and build a team, you know, I think the way Ottawa is doing it, it's kind of the basic draft and develop approach, right? And that's probably what they have to do because of some of the challenges they have. And in some ways, as you say, you look at the Jets have done some similar things in the past with some of their young kids. I don't know that they've committed. I don't think they've ever committed that kind of money to someone after just one season. But this is the NHL now. It's a young players league. If you can get a kid locked up and you believe in him, you know, I suspect they will probably end up being pretty happy with that investment. The contract, this isn't giving a 30-year-old an 8-year deal where you suspect the back end of it's not going to age well. The hope here is that actually by the time you get to maybe years 4, 5, 6, everybody's talking about what a deal this is. Can't believe we have this guy locked up for X many more years at this price.
Oh, listen, I think that they're well on their way to that. I mean, just look at these numbers. Tim Stützle, 21 years old, 8.35, signed until the 30-31 season. Their captain, Brady Tkachuk, who's 23 years old, 5 more years at 8.2. You got Thomas Chabot, who was the first guy to sign that long-term deal, 5 more years at $8 million. Sanderson's extension does not kick in until next season. So he's going to play 1 more year at $9.25 and then get his $8 million. I mean, listen, credit to them. They've got that core going on. And obviously, after this season, they'll look to try to get Jacob Chychrun done. But they've got 2 more years at a pretty affordable 4.6.
Josh Norris is signed till the summer of 2030 at 7.95. If you look at Cap Friendly, he's listed on the injured reserve.
Yes, of course.
But he's only 24 as well. So you've got all these guys, and interesting, Huss, these numbers are all kind of the same, right? 8.35 for Stützle, 8.2 for Tkachuk, 8 for Chabot, 8 and change now for Sanderson, 7.95 for Norris. So you've got those 5 guys that are all within a whisker of each other, you know, in and around $40 million, your core 5, kind of for a generation, they're locked up. If those guys can do what you think they can do, and the cap goes up the way you expect it to, that could be a really, really solid bet. And the Ottawa Senators, Huss, are going to be a big problem in the Eastern Conference in the very near future.
No doubt about it. Mike, listen, great having you on the program. Good luck in week 1 of the Fantasy League. Yes. And because you're going to need a win to be 1-1 after week 2. Ron
Hodge is going down. That's what I'm playing this week. So
hey, that's going to be a lot of fun for us to follow throughout the year. Sure. Have an awesome weekend. Enjoy the Banjo Bowl. Yes. And we'll look forward to catching up with you next week, as we'll be 1 week closer to Jets training camp getting going.
Yeah, rookie camp gets underway next week. And I was down at the Ice Pucks yesterday. There's about a dozen or so guys now in town, more on the way. So, yeah, we should have a lot of local Jets talk by next week.
Right on. Thanks so much, Mike. Hey, speaking of Jets, shout out to Les Thompson in chat. If you jumped in late, we announced we've got a Winnipeg Sports Talk Pack for the Winnipeg Jets this year. 4 games, awesome games. LA, return of Dubois, McDavid and the Oilers, the Leaf game on Saturday night, and big game against Calgary at the end of the season. If you're with us in chat right now, Remis has a link right there. You can click on it, but it is winnipegjets.com/WST. And I love this comment from Les. Say, the Winnipeg WST pack works great for me. I had packs before, but got tired of going to games alone. Now I'll have a group scenario. Awesome. I just love to hear that. That is exactly what we're thinking about. I mean, obviously, love people to get pairs and, heck, grab 4, grab 6, grab a bunch of friends and join us. But we're going to get together before the games, have a little early access for folks, do a few fun giveaways. Everyone's going to get a drink included with the ticket. So I'm really excited about this, but great to hear that sort of feedback from you, Les. And Mike Wynn, it's Section 316. Absolutely. Where else would we do it? Best section in the building for many reasons, and you'll all see that when we get going. Anyways, we'll talk more about this towards the end of the program. We'll get to the Coolbet lines for tonight in the NFL, but we got one of my favorites coming up in just a minute. Before we do that, a big thanks to our friends at Vita Health Fresh Market. If you're looking for great prices on natural and organic supplements, beauty products, groceries, and Winnipeg's largest selection of local products, get on down to one of 6 Vita Health Fresh Market stores or online at myvita.ca. Free delivery now is available from Vita Health through myvita.ca. What you need to do is use the discount code LOCALSHIP, all one word. You can go on an evening, pick out all the great stuff that you want, use Local Ship for free delivery, and get it to the next day. Thanks to our friends at Vita Health. And hey, if you're doing a big Labor Day or Banjo Bowl tailgate, check out those grass-fed bison and beef steaks for the grill as well. Vita Health's empowering people to lead healthy lives. 6 Winnipeg locations and online at myvita.ca. Folks, if you have fencing or overhead door needs, there's only one people to call, and that is our friends at Wallace & Wallace, the experts since 1946. If you need the security and protection of a new fence, they've got vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, or wood. Absolutely the right fence for your property. And speaking of your property, if you need to replace your garage door, Wallace & Wallace has Winnipeg's largest selection of overhead garage doors. 452-2700 is the number. The Wallace & Wallace team will arrange a time to come out and give you a free estimate. You can also check them out online at wallacefences.com and wallacedoors.com, or pop down to their showroom on Lawson Crescent, just off of Kenniston. Well, fellas, as much as we probably don't want to admit it or accept it, summer's over, fall is here. How's your closet? If you need to up your menswear game heading into the new season, get on down to F Apparel. Custom suits beginning at $400, along with chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and an incredible selection of menswear accessories. In a wedding party or having a big day next year, get the fellas suited up at F Apparel and get a 15% discount for everybody in the wedding party. Best way to do it is pop down and see them in person at 190 Smith Street downtown. You can make an appointment to go in or check out more on everything F Apparel has going on online at that's EPHapparel.com. And just before we get to a little 4-down pigskin, big shout out to Nick and Nikki DQ. 4 DQ locations, including DQ Northgate, Polo Park, St. Anne's, and the DQ in Niverville. And now Nick and Nikki also have the new Pita Pit, which just opened last week in Niverville. You can check them out online at Pita Pit Niverville for all your catering needs, and pop in for fresh, healthy, delicious eats on the go in Niverville at the new Pita Pit. All right, NFL kickoff tonight. And who better to have jump on than our old pal Chris Meaney, FTN Network, Mean Streets. It is go time. Meaney, how you been? How's the summer?
Oh, man, I'm good. Yeah, summer was okay. There was a lot of rain on the East Coast, but I still got a lot of golf in, and this is my favorite time of the year. You know, with football and the bright lights of October soon with baseball, NHL around the corner, NBA. It is all happening, and you're Chiefs tonight. And I know you're going to take that in and watch the whole ceremony. It should be a fun night for you.
Yeah, listen, I know you're an Eagles guy, and this was not done. I had been waiting for 5-6 months to wear the Super Bowl champs hat on the show. I figured today was going to be the day. I mean, both these teams look really, really good. But just when you get to this day, are you like me? Like, my brain is so fried from fantasy football drafts and auctions and everything to do with fantasy. I am so looking forward to setting my damn lineups, placing a bet or two on this game tonight, and just sitting down and watching the game and not obsessing about the depth chart of the New Orleans Saints backfield or, the quarterback situation in Seattle, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It's a lot of prep, and I know you've been doing it nonstop, and myself over, just grinding numbers and rankings and projections and diving into depth charts and giving a bunch of futures, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it, but I'm happy that it is week one. We can set our lineups, we can sit back, put the feet up, hands behind the head, enjoy a tasty beverage or two, and just watch some football. And it's like week one is always just crazy. In survivor pools, there's always a couple of upsets, and we should maybe not overreact with everything that we see this weekend, but just sit back and love it. But you're right, man. I've done probably 50 plus best ball drafts on Mean Streets Live, helping people out, and I'm just excited to sit back and watch the points pile up now.
Yeah, let's. And what a matchup we actually have for game number one. I know I've been on the air for the last little bit. We get any more clarity on Kelsey for tonight?
And not really. I know his brother Jason yesterday morning was on a Philadelphia radio talk show, I believe VIP, and he said he thought that he would play. But again, he's not a doctor. He talked about how he experienced the same sort of injury. This morning on NFL Network, they're reporting a true game time decision for Travis Kelce. And then I just heard Adam Schefter probably a few minutes ago talking about how there's some reports that he wants to play, he thinks he can play, but Kansas City's thinking that this may not happen for him. And that's why we've seen some line movement, 6.5 to 4.5. I still see 6.5 over at Caesars, William Hill. I still see that. If I'm kind of leaning Detroit 6.5, I think Kansas City will pull off a victory either way. And I do have a couple props that maybe you can share a little bit, but it's tough. Like, what's the point? Right? I mean, Super Bowl aspirations. Let's not, roll out Travis Kelce. I know he wants to play in this big moment in Kansas City at Arrowhead. It should be a fun atmosphere tonight, but if he suits up, I would imagine he's limited for sure.
It's funny. I mean, we do a lot of stuff with Coolbet here, and I've been paying close attention to their line. And throughout yesterday, I mean, it was at 5.5. Most of the other books had gone to 4.5, and then finally they went to 4.5 today. Will Hill's still hanging up a 6.5. That is almost begging you to take the Detroit Lions, and that almost feels, when those lines sometimes just don't totally add up when you see everything else around, but they're more than willing to take your money on a side that they assume everyone is betting.
I know, and everybody loves Detroit. So you're right. It's the new team. Everybody's picking them to win the NFC North. They're favored to win the division. They're getting this game, right? That's a big deal that they are getting this game. The league likes the Detroit Lions, and kind of, screwing them over a little bit last year by putting them on prime time against Aaron Rodgers and the Packers when they were already eliminated. But Dan Campbell, 23-11 against the spread as a head coach. It's the best in the NFL since he's been in the league. 19-9 against the spread as a dog with 6 straight covers. So this is a team that has been competitive over the past couple of years with him. I liked their draft. They added a couple nice pieces. Jahmyr Gibbs, we're going to see him out of the backfield catching balls. Sam Laporte is a nice young tight end that's probably going to be involved right away, with Jameson Williams being suspended for the first 6 games. Jared Goff had a nice season last year. The home and away splits were for real. He did struggle outside of a dome. This is one of the toughest places, as to play a football game at Arrowhead. So I do still lean Kansas City to win this game. I got like a 27-23 type of game, which is just a tad under that number. I think it's a little high.
I've my favorite prop for tonight, and I mean, may as well just come in swinging into week one with the champs. Yes. But I was talking to Dusty earlier today about kind of and he's a Lions guy, so we were obviously going to have some competing, a couple props. But I went through it and I saw plus 137 on Mahomes to throw over 2.5 touchdowns. And I dug into a little bit more about what he's done in season openers. He's 5-0. He's got a 136.9 quarterback rating, 18 touchdowns and no picks. I mean, at a certain point, you just have to say, listen, why the hell not?
Yeah, I saw those numbers too, and it's unbelievable. This guy, what he has done is you can't write a better script. I mean, 5 years, been to 5 AFC Championship games, a couple of Super Bowls, MVPs. I mean, he's been unbelievable. And even without Travis Kelce, this time last year, you heard it. Oh, how's he going to be without Tyreek Hill? How's Mahomes? Which wide receiver is going to be the guy for him? And he just spread the ball around to all of his weapons. There's a lot of nice young pieces in the offense I'm excited for. Sky Moore is a guy that I like. His receiving yard props 38.5 at Caesars, minus 118. DraftKings is hanging 46.5. So there's a pretty big gap there. We have him projected at ftnfantasy.com for 45 receiving yards. And what I've seen, and I know it's just the preseason, but what I've seen so far is it looks like he's going to have that role in the slot that Juju Smith-Schuster had. There's a lot of other nice pieces there. Rashee Rice, Richie James, Kadarius Toney, MVS, a lot of different moving pieces behind Travis Kelce. I just think that he is going to be on the field in 2 wide receiver sets with MVS, and that's very important, where the other guys may sprinkle in like gadget plays here and there. So I think Sky Moore's in. And Jerick McKinnon's another guy too, right? Like, how many times last year did he finish second on the team in targets and catches? Multiple times behind Travis Kelce. His receiving yard or reception prop, is 2.5 at minus 123. I believe that's at FanDuel. A career high 56 grabs, 500 receiving yards, 9 receiving touchdowns. Just 14 of his last 17 games, at least 2 catches. And he's topped this number pretty consistently, like 7 straight regular season games. He's been around that number. And
that's
I just
with
feel
Kelce.
like that's with Kelce, right? And you just said the Mahomes number. This is a team that wants to they pass the ball, right? When you look at just rush percentage teams, pass percentage teams, Kansas City's up near the top, even in the red zone. Mahomes loves to throw the football. They don't really hand it off that much. So I love that prop that you mentioned for him to have 3 passing touchdowns at plus money. Sign me up.
Showtime and prime time on the night you raise the banner. I mean, let's go. And by the way, I know that number changes a little bit. I am on MVS over 39.5. And I just think back to that AFC Championship game when receivers were falling down, and more so than any point in that year did Mahomes lean on Valdez-Scantling, and he came up big. And I don't think it can be understated how a year of experience having that sort of thing happen at crunch time in a big game does to a player going into a second season with a quarterback like Pat, especially in a situation where the number one guy might be out. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he blows that away, or at least the number of targets that we're used to him getting throughout his first season in Kansas City.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's why I'm looking at him and Sky Moore, is because those are the guys that I expect to stay on the field in 2 wide receiver sets. I mean, there's been reports that Rashee Rice and Kadarius Toney will be gadget plays. Justin Ross, gadget guy. Richie James, same sort of deal. And the best thing about that number with MVS is sometimes I take a look at his reception, like the longest catch. And because he's a big A-dot guy, average depth of target, he stretches the field. He's that guy that can go with the go routes, and Mahomes can take that shot with him down the field. So even if he doesn't have a lot of targets, it's a number that he can get with 1, maybe 2 catches. So that's certainly appealing for me as well. Yeah, I mean, my goodness, this Chiefs team is just loaded. They're loaded all over the field.
Well, I mean, there's a lot to love with the Detroit too, although it's a pretty tough spot to play in week number 1. Big picture though, overall, I mean, we'll maybe ask you about, a couple of the individual players that you like to hit, whether that's fantasy or, certainly for futures. But Meaney, whenever I have guys like you on that, work so hard at handicapping the league, we know every year there's a couple teams that sort of come out of nowhere and win their division or make the playoffs or are good when no one expects it. And there's always a couple teams that everyone just assumes are going to be great that end up flopping and missing the playoffs. Obviously, injuries are a huge part of that, something that we really can't predict. But is there a couple teams on either side of the ledger that you're sort of specifically high on or lower on maybe the conventional wisdom going into week 1?
Yeah, there's two teams in the NFC that I like a lot, and I know it's top heavy with the Niners and the Eagles, and I think the Cowboys are certainly right there in the conversation. I mean, those three teams stand out, but I don't know if I'm breaking any news here, but like the New Orleans Saints, I like quite a bit. They're still plus money to win the NFC South. And this is a team that has a really, really strong defense. And Derek Carr struggled last season. 2 years ago, he was unbelievable. He's not as bad as last year throwing picks. I believe it was an outlier campaign for him. He's been an accurate quarterback. A couple of years ago, he was really good, and he's probably not that good. So somewhere in between the last 2 years, but he's never had a top defense over the course of his career. He's got a top defense. Chris Olave, I do believe, is a stud wide receiver, is in for a breakout campaign in year two. There's some questions around Michael Thomas. I mean, the best kept secret maybe at the tight end position is Juwan Johnson. This is a guy that I think could get 7 or 8 touchdowns. This is a big body tight end. Alvin Kamara is suspended for the first 3 games, but when he is playing and he's active, this is a guy that is certainly still a game changer in the NFL. Jamal Williams led the NFL in rushing touchdowns and red zone rushing attempts, so they have him to kind of hold the fort down. They drafted a nice young back in Kendre Miller. I really like this Saints team to make some noise. They have the softest schedule, one of the softest divisions. So I think that they can get 11, maybe even flirt with 12 wins. I've taken the over 9.5. I took them probably 2 months ago at nearly 2-1 to win the division. And then the Seattle Seahawks is another team that I like a lot. And I think that they can push the Niners for the division. It's a soft schedule for San Fran. Purdy doesn't have to do a whole lot to win games. I mean, 6-0 last year, 2 passing touchdowns in every single game. The defense will win them a ton of games. But Seattle, I thought, had one of the best drafts, Hustler. I thought they took one of the best running backs in the draft in Zach Charbonnet, 2nd-round pick with Kenneth Walker now. Last year, 2nd-round pick, good 1-2 punch. Arguably the best wide receiver in Jackson Smith-Njigba, best cornerback in Devin Witherspoon. Good defense, underrated defense. Bobby Wagner is back there. So they got a lot going on. Good wide receiver room for Geno Smith, who led the NFL completion percentage. So I think Seattle and New Orleans are underrated. The Falcons knocking on the door. I don't think that they're there yet. That's the team that may be the surprise squad.
Their schedule is so weak, Chris. I mean, I'll be honest. I laid on them at plus 105, I think, to make the playoffs. Looking at their schedule, and listen, if you're not buying in, I'm not buying in on Carolina. I think it's going to be a long season. They just don't have the line to protect Bryce Young, and that could be a very, very bad combination. And I mean, the Bucs, listen, there's a script that has Baker Mayfield playing his ass off and them scoring a bunch of points and them being 9 or 10 win team. I don't think that will be the case. But the Falcons team is really interesting, and especially, we talk a lot about fantasy. I mean, we'll see what happens with the debut of Bijan Robinson, but the word on this dude is that he is special. He was, an all-timer with what he did at Texas. And you don't often see running back capital spent in the first round of the draft that early anymore. And both he and, of course, Jahmyr Gibbs, who we'll see tonight, both teams in the Falcons and Lions, obviously big believers in those young men, that they can make it worth the while for a high first-round pick at a position that normally is not mentioned in the first round often anymore.
No, I'm glad you brought them up. And the thing with the Falcons, I mean, a lot of people say they have an underrated offensive line. I mean, you just stop calling them underrated. It's top 5, right? Tyler Algier is a good back who had 1,000 yards on the ground on 200 carries. Bijan is like, no disrespect to Tyler Algier, but Bijan Robinson is like twice the player as he. He's a bell cow back who's going to catch balls into the backfield. The last 3 years, they spent a first-round pick on skilled players and Kyle Pitts and Drake London and Bijan Robinson. Arthur Smith wants to run the football. You know what he did with Derrick Henry in Tennessee. He does a great job with his outzone schemes, and it's a team that will rely on the run game. I wonder when they get into some games where they have to score some points and rely on Desmond Ridder if he is the answer. I think next year they're really probably looking at another quarterback. My hot take is maybe Kyler Murray as a Falcon next year, and then this offense really explodes. But I think Atlanta, with the schedule, they're going to knock on the door. Like the win total with them, the Saints, and the Seattle. On the other side, go back to your other question about maybe teams that are good that may not live up to expectations. And last year they were great as Miami. It's just the AFC is so loaded, right? The Jets with Rodgers, the Bills are great. Kansas City, Jacksonville took the step forward last year. I believe in them fully with Doug Peterson in year 2 with Trevor Lawrence. You saw the leap forward for him after they got rid of Urban Meyer. The Chargers are legit. The Ravens, this is the best wide receiver room Lamar Jackson has ever had. The Bengals as a team, but Joe Burrow's the only guy that really has beaten Patrick Mahomes. And you got the Steelers who are knocking on the door as well with Kenny Pickett in year number 2 and a great defense. So Miami's got that tough schedule like the Jets, like the Bills, and I just don't think they can overcome it. And Tua with the health issues and already some major injuries to the squad as well. Jalen Ramsey's a big cornerback that they picked up who's going to be sidelined for the first few weeks of the season. So Miami's a team that I would fade all year kind of and take the under on them.
Yeah, I mean, I think so much of that just depends on if Tua's healthy. I mean, if Tua can play 17 games, I wouldn't rule out them winning the AFC East. But at the same time, I mean, the competition got a heck of a lot better. Where are you on the Jets, speaking of the AFC East? You buying or selling?
I'm buying. Rodgers, I'm not totally buying. He's coming off one of his worst seasons of all time. I mean, he was throwing picks consistently inside the red zone. He wasn't great, but this defense is legit in New York. I mean, they almost made the playoffs last year with just piss poor play at the quarterback position. Mike White, Zach Wilson. We saw Joe Flacco, right? So Rodgers didn't have to do a whole lot there. He does have a true alpha wide receiver in Garrett Wilson. I think he's going to be the offensive player of the year. I think he's going to lead the NFL in receiving touchdowns. He reminds me a lot of an old 17 he had in Green Bay and Devontae Adams. Got a good 1-2 punch on the ground in Dalvin Cook, who I still think has a lot to offer. Breece Hall coming off the injury. Got his old band back together, right? There's some familiar faces there, and Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb, Nathaniel Hackett calling plays. Better as an OC than a head coach. So I am in on the Jets. It's a very, very tough schedule to start. I could see them winning 1, maybe 2 of the first 6 games. It is extremely tough. They got your Chiefs, they got Eagles, they got the Bills opening week. They got a really tough schedule to start the season, but I think they will be a playoff squad. And man, that defense it's phenomenal. So like I said, they only got to probably score like average 24 points a game to really get into double-digit wins, and that'll get them playoffs.
Meaney, before we go, you mentioned the Saints, and it got me thinking about Chris Olave. I always love at the beginning of the season. I mean, it's easy to bet, a -167 team to win their division, but the most fun and I think rewarding bets, if you can win them, are the longer shots on season props. I mean, my favorite one ever was Mahomes MVP 40-1 in 2018 after he'd played 1 game. That came through. I'm looking at a couple of numbers, and Olave in particular to me is fascinating. I mean, we remember the connection that Carr had with Devontae Adams, and how when he finds a guy, much like Aaron Rodgers did, they'll keep throwing it to that guy over and over and over again. I mean, I know Olave was just over 1,000 yards. I mean, if he stays healthy, I think he blows through that probably maybe by week 11, week 12. Olave at 35-1 to lead the league in receiving. I know it's a big jump up, when you look at kind of that stratosphere that Jefferson was in and a few of those other guys, Tyreek Hill, Kupp and whatnot. But there's a couple of longer swings that I've taken on bets like that. Just wondering if, you got any 25, 30, 40-1s for the season you think might be worthwhile taking a look at before the season gets going, of whether it be league leaders or just some fun long shots for the season of guys that there's a good reason to believe that maybe could happen.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, Chris Olave is, for me, he handled top coverage as a rookie, and I thought that this is very important, right? I mean, Michael Thomas was there to start the season, then he was left, and he just faced top corners all the time, and he was among the leaders in average depth of target and air yards. So, yeah, Andy Dalton kind of force-fed him, but we also saw some Taysom Hill who really just didn't. So I think Derek Carr is really good for his game. Off the top of my head, there's one player I just typed into our prop shop that I really like this year, and Christian Watson. He is 60-1 in some spots to lead the NFL in receiving yards. He was a great player last year in fantasy from week 10 to week 18. There were only 3 players that averaged more fantasy points per game than Christian Watson. It was like Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams. He's a guy that reminds me of Mike Evans. He's a big body. He's got some sneaky speed. He can go up and get it. He has struggled with some drops, yes. But down the stretch of the season, he was really leaned on. And I know the quarterback play could scare some people with Jordan Love, but I think Love's going to be all right. I think he's going to be a decent fantasy quarterback. He's going to move around in the pocket with his legs. There's some questions. Romeo Doubs is dealing with a hamstring injury. I don't know if it's significant as Cooper Kupp, but he could be sidelined for the first few weeks. They got 2 rookie tight ends, and they got another rookie wide receiver in Jaden Reed in the slot. So Christian Watson is a guy that I actually think will be top 10 in targets. I think he's going to be a big player in the red zone. He's a sneaky play for maybe most touchdowns in the league as well. I'm seeing 60-1 for him as well. He's a guy I like, and I will throw out one more. I don't know the number. I can get it probably offhand here. It's DJ Moore of Detroit, or the Bears. So one thing that I've seen over the past couple of years is we saw a leap forward from Josh Allen when they brought in Stephon Diggs. We saw the leap forward from Jalen Hurts when they brought in an alpha and A.J. Brown. I don't think that Fields will be – he's been the most bet MVP out of anybody. I think it was like 35-1. I saw something the other day that more people have bet Fields is MVP than anyone else. I just don't think that's possible because I don't think they'll have the record. Like, Chicago won't be good enough. I kind of view them as a 6, 7, 8 win team maybe. But DJ Moore – over the last, since 2019, he's sixth among wide receivers in receiving yards. He's never had really good quarterback play. Like, Cam Newton was near the end, Kyle Allen, other guys in Carolina, Sam Darnold just didn't live up to the expectation. Moore is a guy that you always start with 2 plays in the preseason. One he brought to the house was like a 65-yard touchdown, and another one was a little bubble, kind of a bubble, little screen, and he went 55 yards. Those throws were nothing. Like, those were just little pitch and catch for Justin Fields. Accuracy is an issue, but get the ball in his hands in space. And I think he's a guy that could rack up 1,400 yards, and I wouldn't be shocked at all. And I'm seeing it right now, another 60-1 for him. So there's 2 long shot wide receivers that I like a lot.
Love it, Meaney. Chris, this has been so much fun. Perfect day to get you on the program. Always appreciate your time. Fill people in on Mean Streets and everything you guys have going on over at FTN. Perfect time to maybe take a look at those services, considering it's week 1, night 1 today.
Yeah, week 1 we have everything to help you like all year long in your fantasy leagues. For one, like projections, weekly rankings for myself, Jeff Ratcliffe. We got Aaron Schatz, who's a creator of Football Outsiders, DVOA, joined the squad last week. We have his.
That's a
FTN
huge
Almanac.
free agent signing.
Oh
Shots?
Man. What a guy. What a guy.
Had him on the show a few times. Genius.
Genius. Yeah, he really is. His new podcast launched today. It's free listen on iTunes and Apple. It's on our FTN Network YouTube page. They're going to come at you every Monday and Wednesday, Mike Tanier and him. And, super fun. Like today, they just broke down all the games and some projections and things they like, some props. So, we have you from a season-long standpoint. If you like betting, we have all kinds of tools over at ftnbets.com. Discord channels with broken down into all the sports. You know how much I love hockey. Dangle Bet Selly's a hockey show that will be back twice a week here very soon. Just wrapped up all my rankings and busts and sleepers. All that stuff will be free over at ftnfantasy.com. But yeah, if you really like football and you like diving into numbers, we do have all the metrics from Schatz now with the DVOA, and we have start and sit tools. We have pace of play, split tools, like how good did Alexander Mattison play when Dalvin Cook wasn't on the squad. Things like that will help you make some of those tough decisions or maybe get the edge on some of the props as well. Mean Streets coming at you 5 days a week, all the sports that you love. Rough times, usually 12 Eastern, but if you subscribe to our FTN Network YouTube page, appreciate you guys showing that there. You'll get notified right away when we go live. So, man, this is a lot of fun. I love chopping it up with you, man. One more on the way out. Josh Reynolds, for the Detroit fans out there, over 25.5 receiving yards. He topped this number his first 5 games last season, 28, 38, 96, 82, and 92. He's topped it in 11 of 17 games with Jared Goff. These guys know each other from the Rams days. I think we can get the 25.5 today from Josh Reynolds.
Chris, thanks so much for doing this. Let's get ready for hockey season. I'm sure we'll do this again soon. And always love jumping on with you and having you on with me. Thanks for doing this, man, and enjoy NFL kickoff tonight.
Yes, you as well, my friend. And hit me up. We'll talk some hockey when we get a little bit closer to the season. Have a good one, dude.
You got it. Thanks so much. There is Chris Meaney from FTN Network, FTN Daily, and of course, great show. Diving into a lot of things that we just spoke about 5 days a week. Mean Streets. Check it on over at the FTN YouTube page. All right, we've still got few things to do. We're getting close to 3. Let me give a big shout out to our friends at Princess Auto, proud sponsors of the Bombers and WST, the Princess Auto crew. I think there'll be a lot of blue in Princess Auto on Friday, getting ready for the Banjo Bowl. Of course, Princess Auto is where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. 2 Winnipeg locations, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West. You can always shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. Speaking of big bomber shops, I know Joe and the fellas at Consolidated Supply are ready for Saturday, but they're busy right now because Consolidated Supply is the leaders in irrigation systems, artificial turf, golf carts, and vehicles from Club Cars, the exclusive club car dealer in Manitoba. Not to mention other great options for your property, including hot tubs and amazing outdoor kitchens. And of course, Consolidated Supply is also your go-to guys for small engine parts and repair. Pop by and see Consolidated Supply at their showroom, open to the public, 1395 Niagara Road East. Find out more online at cte.ca. Well, it is NFL kickoff tonight. You're seeing this great Super Bowl champions hat. Where do you think I got it? Of course, I got it at Royal Sports. When it comes to NFL gear, all 32 teams, there is nowhere where you'll find a better selection of all the latest and best NFL merch. And of course, a great selection of Bomber Blue for the Banjo Bowl. If you're looking to maybe up your Bomber gear in time for Saturday afternoon, get on over to Royal Sports. Tons of Jets gear as well. And of course, the #1 hockey superstore in town for literally everything you can need when it comes to the sport, just in time to drop the puck in September and October. Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. And follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Pembina. Well, Remo was, we were doing a little double duty, had a little meeting last night over at Boston Pizza. While he was doing that draft with many of you, I will tell you that our friends at BP are absolutely ready to go for NFL season and, of course, the Banjo Bowl. There's nowhere better to get together with the gang for the big game than your local BP. You'll be able to go to any BP tonight and see the game on, Chiefs, Lions, with the full sound. And the bottom line, ice-cold schooners, world-famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, the latest from the BP feature menu, and check out the Burger Week offerings at your local BP as well. And hey, staying in, you can always order online at bostonpizza.com. All right, let's get Michael Remis back in here. And Remo, shout out to you for getting Meaney on today. He is one of my favorites, just one of the nicest guys, does such a great work with what he does. And that was like the perfect day to have Meaney on to get us ready for kickoff tonight.
Big fan of what he does, and Meaney can touch on just about any sport. People are pointing out, what he's got in the background. Well, I'm pretty sure he's in Toronto, so he can do hockey. NFL.
No, he's on the East Coast. He's Halifax.
Halifax, Toronto. I mean, they're basically the same.
They're
right?
east of Winnipeg.
Yeah, east. Yeah. So yeah, he can talk about anything. So a lot of fun stuff. And yes, I was with you last night at Boston Pizza. Organized a little draft with some listeners. A lot of them in chat beaking me right now. T. Will, Randy, Rob Mahoney, who I'm playing this
Are
week.
you? Oh.
Okay. Want to hear?
You gotta win that game.
I better beat Rob. I took Mahomes first. Everyone thought took him. I was 14th pick. So with my 15th pick, I took Mahomes, and everyone thought you stole my phone for that one.
Smart pick. And who was the other guy you took? Like, who'd you take at the
I don't even
bookend?
remember. I don't remember who was it. Bijan?
The receiver.
No, that was a different draft they did. I did a best ball draft after.
Nice.
I took Mahomes 14 and Devontae Adams 15.
Oh, okay.
But there was some controversy in the draft. I wanted to get your ruling on it. And I've been a commissioner in leagues, 15 plus years more. I've done many leagues, baseball, hockey. I've done everything. There was an incident in last night's draft where I was drafting on my phone, and I thought your draft, I thought, went to Boston Pizza for 7. I thought we were going to be there for an hour. We were there until 9. The draft was at 8:30. Anyways, on my my second set of picks, because I was back-to-back, I took Amari Cooper, and then it auto-drafted me Christian Watson. And I didn't really know what happened. Like, I clicked draft on Cooper, and I thought the clock was going to reset. I would have more time. But it's possible I did my select on Cooper didn't register, and I just ran out of time, and he was the top of my queue. So I drafted him. I quickly noticed that, and one person had selected Rashad White, but because I was the commissioner, I was able to step in, pause the draft, undo, and say, no, it screwed up, and I selected. I didn't select Rashad White, who had been taken. I went and undid.
Okay, that would have been, if it was Rashad White, I would have understood mass chaos in the chat.
No, I went and picked Kenneth Walker, but for the rest of the night, like T. Will and all these jokesters in the chat after every pick are like, oh no, sorry, that was a mistake. To the point where I'm trying to run a fair draft, and if it's an auction, I don't like to reverse like picks and stuff. I don't like to do reverse picks, but if the site, if technology gets in the way, sometimes you have to step in, and if it's not really going to affect the picks. So I'm trying to run so look, I thought it wasn't a problem because I was the commissioner. I could step in and do that. But everyone was just ripping me. There was an incident at the end where someone said, "Oh, I didn't make that pick," but like 7 guys had already passed. I was like, "Well, I can't undo it because you have to undo every
statute of limitations at that point." I mean,
so I did accommodate Randy in that thing, but it was frustrating when you're trying to run.
He took a guy and you traded him. You traded the guy too. That's being a very benevolent commissioner. You put up with a lot with these guys in the chat every day, and I can only imagine what it's going to be like in the fantasy league right now. That being said, we will. I know there's decent talk about some sort of a hockey pool or something like
People
that.
want a hockey, yeah.
Mary Jane, exactly. See, Mary Jane's the best. Remo is the commissioner. Period. That's the end of story. Mary Jane has spoken. We can move on.
I was the commissioner on that one. Look, if I knew we were going to be, I would have brought my laptop to BP. I didn't even bring my portable charger. It was a big fail. It was a big fail for me there.
We were doing, and he was working at the time. I mean, we weren't just sitting around screwing around. We had, these are top secret WST meetings that continue to go on as we get ready for the upcoming season. We are going to get to the Coolbet lines. Before we get out of here. New lock shop today. We hit the CFL. We hit tonight's game. Tomorrow's lock shop live at noon, which you can see right now on the Edmonton Sports Talk channel over on YouTube with myself and Dustin Nielsen. The first full NFL Friday. Oh, God, I cannot wait. But first of all, we got to get to tonight's game. But as I mentioned to you folks, Banjo Bowl is here. It is Banjo Bowl weekend. And well, we're going to be getting together at Little Brown Jug next Wednesday for another sold-out Winnipeg Sports Talk Sports Trivia Night. Might be a good time to head on over to LBJ before the Banjo Bowl. Stock up on some generic lagers, some 1919s. Listen, if you're going to have the best tailgate of the entire year before the Banjo Bowl, you may as well get the best beer that Winnipeg has to offer from our friends at LBJ. You know where they're at, William Avenue, but you can also pick up Little Brown Jug pretty much wherever they sell great beer throughout the city of Winnipeg, and you can check them out online at littlebrownjug.ca. Shout out to our friends at Aikens Lake. We're finishing up the season over the course of the next couple weeks and coming back. Looking forward to seeing Pitt and the gang at Jet games this season. Of course, if you want to find out more on availability for the 2024 season at Aikens Lake, get online to aikenslake.com. Find out more about the Aikens experience, which I can tell you is second to none, as well as get planning for a trip up to Aikens next season. And, hey, we're counting down to the Ryder Cup right now, but there's still some great golf days left in this summer. And our friends over at Breezy Bend are making the most out of it. But the reason I bring that up, obviously the course is looking great. New 7th and 15 greens have just completely changed the course. But now's the time to get on that waiting list if you haven't already for the 2024 season as Breezy continues to grow. BreezyBend.ca. Give our pal Corey Johnson a call and find out more about the upcoming season. And we'll have more Breezy golf reports as we get closer to the Ryder Cup in Italy at the end of the year. Let's get to these lines tonight because it's been fascinating to see how this Kelsey news has sort of been fluctuating with tonight's line. It was 6.5 for the majority of, well, the last couple weeks. The game originally opened at 7, and now think a lot of people scared about what exactly is going on with the Chiefs and their lineup for tonight. Here's what you need to know. The spread is 4.5. Chiefs minus 106, Detroit minus 102. And the over-under has been all over the place. It opened at 54.5. It was down as low as 52. Then it was 54 when we were doing the lock shop today. And now it is 53.5. Tons of great props for the game tonight. As I said, I love Mahomes to throw 3 touchdown passes. That's plus 137. Talked about with Meaney. I'm on MVS to get 40-plus yards. And I put those into a little exclusive. Dusty and I are going head-to-head with our lock shop partner parlays tonight. There's a ride with Huss, Chiefs guy. There's a ride with Dusty, Lions guy. I got Chiefs to cover 4.5. Mahomes 3 touchdown passes, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling 40 receiving yards, plus 550. Dusty's got the Lions plus 4.5. Goff to throw for 225 plus. Amon-Ra St. Brown 60 receiving yards, and a David Montgomery anytime TD in his Lions debut. That one's plus 625. And the picks are in for the lock shop partner parlay for the Canadian Football League. We're taking the Alouettes plus 10.5 against the Argos. The Bombers minus 8.5 against the Riders in the Banjo Bowl. And the Elks. I went on Edmonton Sports Talk today and said, folks, you're not going to understand what I'm saying here, but home winning streak is about to start for the Elks. And Elks minus 2.5. That one's boosted up to plus 650. All there in the exclusive section over at Coolbet. And don't forget, if you haven't played a Coolbet before, use the promo code WST. You'll get a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. If you are like myself and many of the people that have been cool bettors for a number of years, how's this for a nice little season kickoff bonus? Put in $50 and get a 100% match on that 50. Use the promo code NFLRL23, NFL Reload 23. That's what it stands for. 50% bonus. Or sorry, 100% bonus up to $50. So if you want to just do it with 25, they'll match it to 25. But yeah, $50 in, $50 free cash for the season, all over at coolbet.com. And I've got a meeting right after this, but I'm going to come back and squeeze in at about 6:15 our time for those of you that are on the X, formerly known as Twitter, at Coolbet Canada. You'll see my play of the day there. But the guys are going to be hosting a little Twitter Spaces about tonight's game. I'll be jumping on that. Have you ever done Twitter Spaces before, Remo? I have not. This is going to be my my debut voyage into the X. I guess it's now X Spaces, not Twitter Spaces.
Yeah, no, I think I've like tuned in occasionally. I don't think I've ever spoke on one, so I'm pretty familiar with them. But no, I've never done a Twitter Space. Or an X. I like how you do that X, like your Des Bryant or Degeneration X. Take your pick. So we'll tune into that one, Huss. It's like a celebration today. NFL's here, seeing a lot of great tweets.
Well, you know what? And listen, I've been busy and I haven't seen as much of the chat. But man, I'm just seeing this comment from Randy, and I saw a couple others earlier. Randy D at Winnipeg Sports Talk. Tickets bought. And so excited to join the WST Jets section. Leafs game is on my B-Day too. Nothing better. Randy, right on. Again, if you jumped on a little bit later, you can go to the start of the show or check it out. We launched a Winnipeg Jets, Winnipeg Sports Talk Pack. We're in my section, section 316. I think you will love it there. Jets attack zone in the first and third. We've got the bar right outside the section. We got the bathroom right there. Easy exit in and out of the game afterwards. An awesome place to get together in between periods. But we're also going to have early access for WSTers. We're going to get in there early. Every ticket includes a drink of your choice, a beer, a cocktail, soft drink, water, your choice. That's all going to be done through the app. And 4 great games. The return of PLD in October against the Kings. McDavid and the Oilers in November. Leaf game Saturday, January 20th, 27th, and the Flames in April as the push to the playoffs gets going. As I said, awesome to see all those comments. I'm excited. Remo and I will be hosting. We'll get people there beforehand. We're going to be doing a couple cool draws at every game with some stuff from WST sponsors as well as the Jets. It's going to be a great time. And I know there's a lot of people that would love to have a package. Figured we'd make something hopefully affordable for everyone. You can make it to 4 games, and we got some of the 4 best games of the year. So this is going to be awesome, Remis. I can't wait for the 17th. And in the meantime, folks, tell your friends, tell everyone, the more the merrier. We got 4 rows booked off in that section. And I think if we can put that together, considering the success we've had with some of these other events, we could be in for 4 amazing nights, the start of something really cool. And, we can kind of do our part to get the juice back in that building, especially for some nights. And I think start a bit of a movement with everyone coming off some of the successful things that we've already done this year.
Yeah, a couple things. I've seen people in chat who've mentioned they've already got tickets. Shafter, 4H7 got 2. Scott won, and then they went and got a second. And Russ Lowen mentioned he got one. Yeah, Randy. I think Les said he got one, and you mentioned Les saying, now he doesn't have to go solo. And Randy's like, Les, where are you sitting? And then Randy got a ticket beside Les. So seeing these connections and friendships being made, pretty cool. I think there is no doubt of the 4 games. If you had to put together a 4-game pack, we went 4 for 4. These games are awesome. I mean, the Leafs, McDavid, Dubois return, and playoff push against Calgary at the end. I mean, Thursday in April is basically a Friday game.
Absolutely.
Game, and now I just got to figure out my wardrobe for this, Huss. I got to figure out what I'm gonna rock. If I'm gonna wear what kind of jersey, and we'll have to see, or something else. I don't know. Well, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, as I say, the first game is October 17th, and as I said, we want everyone. That is going to be our kickoff for it. I mean, I think that might be the most fun game of the year, just because it'll be the first time, and we'll do it all. We'll get more details as we go forward. But in the meantime, the link is with us right here. It's pinned. It'll be in the description of the video. We'll have a link over at winnipegsportstalk.com as well. But it's pretty simple. winnipegjets.com/WST. Click it. $375. There is a payment plan. If you're thinking, I just can't do that right now, I believe there's an option where you can do it $75 over 5 months. But otherwise, get on it, folks. Join us for 4 great games as we continue sort of expand some of these nights. And as I say, I hope if we get a good crew together, especially some of you that, I know many of you, sense of humor, passion for the team, love having a good time. We might be able to start some pretty fun chants and whatnot up there with our team right now. Yeah, absolutely. And I know everyone's probably already working at that as well. So I am excited.
I'll say I'm excited for that Dubois game. I'm really conflicted because, he's such a heel for Jets fans. But, I mean, we had our 2 biggest shows ever were the day when there was the report that he was at the draft and the day he got traded. So I feel like we actually owe Dubois quite a bit. He came on the show, was really nice. But
thank you for your service here, PLD. We particularly appreciate what you did on the ice, what you did off the ice, the controversy you started, the conversations you started, and now beat it. You're on the LA Kings, and we will do our best to be as inhospitable host as possible on October 17th with a bunch of our friends from Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Yeah, I'm excited to meet everyone, see everyone. So that should be really fun, and it could be the start of something that, maybe it's a year thing. People hop on, and I was, when you did this, I wasn't sure. Are people going to want to throw down and come to us, come to 4 games? That's kind of a bigger commitment than, one night, which we've done in the past, but tremendous amount of interest already, and we've only done YouTube. I know there's people listening on the podcast who are just hearing about this now after we're live, and like, I'm looking to go to some games. I maybe don't have a group. It would be fun to go in a group setting to the 4 best games if you had to make a 4-game pack.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, for sure. And I mean, please, especially those of you that, are regulars with us, tell your friends, tell other Jet fans. I mean, if they're looking for a spot, I think there's a lot of people in the market that, they do want to have a piece of the action. They want to go to some great games. They'd love to, they want to support the team. But, it's difficult to do it because of pricing, timing, and all that. Hopefully this is a perfect package to sort of get people in. And, hey, maybe you have so much fun that in a few years down the road, I'd love to know that there's a few WSTers together that are friends that are sharing a pair of seats. Hopefully in 316 as well, because I've never given up my seats there. But anyways, really happy to launch that today. Cannot wait to get going on it. Spread the word, everybody. And if you're able to, join us for those 4 games beginning on October 17th against the Los Angeles Kings. Again, it's winnipegjets.com/WST. All right. Remo, anything else before we go tonight?
Yeah, one item. Everyone in the chat wanted me to bring this up. Chris Streveler just put on Instagram he's going to be in attendance at the Banjo Bowl.
What?
Yeah, he posted this picture. How I'm feeling coming back to Winnipeg this weekend for Banjo Bowl, ! Can't wait to see old coaches, teammates, connect with the fans. Going to be a couple events going on through the city. And, of course, I'll be at the game Saturday. #FIFO. So, Chris, I might have to send him a DM, see what he's up to.
Oh, my God. God, sign him just to return kicks, if nothing else, on the weekend. Let's go. Streveler coming back. All right. Well, I can't wait. Half of Bomber social media is going to be Streveler sightings for the next little bit. A few guys more popular than that dude for what he did here, and that is great news. Big show tomorrow. We'll obviously get ready for the Banjo Bowl. We'll talk about this game tonight, NFL week, and the commissioner, not the commissioner of any fantasy league, the actual CFL commissioner, Randy Ambrosie, jumping on tomorrow before the Banjo Bowl.
Yeah, Randy Ambrosie coming on. And I mean, what a great time for CFL as we remove past Labor Day, the second half playoff push, but some great TV numbers, some great games over the last couple of weeks. And we'll chat with him about the touchdown Atlantic. So much talk about wanting to get that 10th team. So really nice of the commissioner. Yeah, not the commissioner of a fantasy league, the real CFL commissioner.
I'm going to ask him tomorrow. Are you also commissioner of your fantasy league, Randy? How would you compare the job that Michael has doing this 14-team league of WSTers to your job of the 19 CFL? In fact, there's 14 teams in this fantasy league. It might even be a bigger job, no?
I'll say this. The hardest part about scheduling, T-Will's like, I'm going to give him tips about commissioning. Finding commissioning is finding the schedule for everyone to be able to be there is really hard. I know Taylor Allen set up the media league, and I think the date changed like 3 or 4 times. Like he said it was Monday, so I made the WST Listener League Wednesday. And then he's like, oh, no, it's actually Wednesday. I'm like, dude, you just told me it was Monday, then Tuesday. I made our thing Wednesday. Like, I can do 2 at a time. But, like, I'm trying to work around you and you're effing me here. So he was really accommodating with that. I know you had to do 2. But I'll make a point.
All good.
It was great. I'll make it a point of being at that one in person. I didn't realize it was in person when I committed to it. I know you took shots at me for not being able to attend. Look,
I couldn't help it. Hey, listen, I couldn't either. It was bad that it was the 2 of us and everyone else was there.
I felt bad. I didn't know that it was in person when I committed to it. So next year I will be there. I wear an NFL jersey and feel free to
Fan
chirp
of the league.
everyone.
Fan of the league. You're gonna wear that hat.
I gotta wear it tomorrow.
This is your Thursday reminder. Set your lineup, get your picks in, make sure that you have no injured players in your lineup. Just that's a reminder. It's your week 1 reminder. We're back into NFL season. Take care of your business. Good luck tonight. Whether you're pulling for KC, pulling for Detroit, or just whoever you picked. And thanks for the great response on the Winnipeg Sports Talk Jets package. Really, really excited about that. Hope to see many of you there. Again, winnipegjets.com/WST for more information on that. Thanks to Meaney. Thanks to Mike McIntyre. And a big thanks to Neal Pionk of the Winnipeg Jets for joining us. If you If you missed that, definitely go back and check that out. Fun chat with Neal. Just heading into training camp. Individual tickets on sale on Friday, but in the meantime, get on those WST packs. We'll get it going on the 17th of October. For Michael Remis, I'm Andrew Paterson. Enjoy the game tonight. Tomorrow, Friday, marbles are back, and we get ready for Banjo Bowl Saturday and the first weekend in the NFL. Let's do this. Enjoy the game tonight. Make sure you tune in early to see that banner going up at Arrowhead, folks. Have a great one, and we'll catch you tomorrow right here on WST.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.